Srila Jiva Goswami's Brahma Samhita Commentary. Text 1. Commentary by Srila Jiva Goswami. Mangalakarana. Within my heart I worship the splendor of Lord Krishna's transcendental form. I desire that by Lord Krishna's mercy I will be able to explain the verses of Brahma Samhita. Although the Brahma Samhita is a very difficult book, the commentaries of the sages have made it easy to understand. My words follow their explanations. Although the Brahma Samhita contains 100 chapters, because this chapter briefly describes Lord Krishna's transcendental form, it is the best. The same transcendental sweetness the pure-hearted devotees see in Srimad Bhagavatam and other Vaishnava Sastras is also present in the Brahma Samhita. For this reason my heart is now happy. After due reflection, in this book I have lightly touched on the same topics more elaborately explained in my Sri Krishna Sandarbha. 1. Krishna Srimad Bhagavatam, 1.328, explains, all of the above mentioned incarnations are either plenary portions or portions of the plenary portions of the Lord, but Lord Sri Krishna is the original personality of Godhead. Brahma Samhita begins with a similar declaration of the supremacy of Lord Krishna. In this verse the Supreme Personality of Godhead is specifically identified as Lord Krishna. As the name Lord Krishna is spoken first in the passage beginning Krishnavataro Seva and other statements of Srila Sukadeva Goswami and other great souls, as the name of Krishna is given first in the statement Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devakinandanaya of the Sama Upanishad, as the name of Krishna is given first in Gargamuni's revelation of the Lord's holy names, and as the example Payasakumham Prayati is also given, in the same way this verse of Brahma Samhita gives the name Krishna first because the form of Lord Krishna is the origin of all other forms of Godhead. That Krishna is the most important name of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is explained in the Padma Purana, Prabhasakanda, where, in a conversation between Narada and Kusadvaha, the following words of the Supreme Personality of Godhead are repeated, O Arjuna, of all my holy names, Krishna is the most important. The importance of the name Krishna is also confirmed in the Brahmanda Purana, Sri Krishnasthatarasatnamastatra, where Lord Krishna says, the pious results derived from chanting the 1,000 names of Lord Vishnu 3 times can be attained by only one repetition of the holy name of Krishna. In the first verse of Brahma Samhita the name Govinda is also given. This name is given to Lord Krishna because he is the master of the spiritual Surabhikas. Because Lord Krishna is all-powerful, the first verse of Brahma Samhita describes him as Isvara. Lord Krishna is also described in these words of Srimad Bhagavatam, 10.8, 13 and 15. Your son Krishna appears as an incarnations in every millennium. In the past he assumed 3 different colors, white, red, and yellow, and now he has appeared in a blackish color. From this son of yours there are many forms and names according to his transcendental qualities and activities. These are known to me, but people in general do not understand them. In these verses the word Asya, of him, refers to Lord Krishna. Anuyogam means in every millennium, Tana means the forms of various incarnations, Orhnata means manifests, Varnastraya means the colors beginning with white, and Asan means manifested. In these verses Gargamuni says, in Satya Yuga and other yugas the Lord appeared in a white form and forms of other colors, but now, Idanim, he has appeared in his original form, the form of Lord Krishna, Krishnatam Gata. Because Lord Krishna is the original, the best form of the personality of Godhead, the name Krishna is the most important of his names, and the other forms of Godhead, Bahuni Rupani, are manifested from the original form, Krishna. That the transcendental qualities of the name Krishna make it the most important of God's names is confirmed in the following statement of Vaishnava literature. In this way the name Krishna is described. The verse of Vaishnava literature does not accept any other name as the most important name of God. In the Astadasaksara Mantravayakya of both the Upasana Tantra and the Gautamiya Tantra the following similar verse may be seen. The word Krs means eternal transcendental existence and Na means spiritual pleasure. When the verb Krs is added to the affix Na, it becomes Krishna, which indicates the eternally blissful absolute truth. The word Bu comes from the verb bu, which may mean to be or to attract. In the quotation from Vaisnava literature the word is interpreted to mean attraction, and in the quote from Gautamiya Tantra, Bu is interpreted to mean existence. The word Bu may thus be interpreted to mean existence, but in this case it may not be interpreted to mean movement or generalness. The primary meaning is attraction. The secondary meaning is existence. The meanings movement and generalness cannot be accepted here. The word nirvrti means bliss. The phrase tayur ikyam means when the two syllables are placed together into a word. Param Brahma means the substance that is the greatest of all. In the phrase Krishna ity abhidayate, an alternate reading replaces the word abhidayate with aryate, is named. Aside from these varied considerations, the primary meaning of the two syllables Krishna is that krs means attraction and na means transcendental bliss. The word krs meaning attracting should be understood to mean that which attracts, just as in the adage Ayurgradam, ghee is long life. Ghee is equated with long life because eating foods cooked in ghee makes one long-lived. Various explanations of the word Param Brahma are given in the scriptures. For example, the Vinu Purana declares, the wise know that the word Param Brahma means he who is the greatest and he who nourishes and protects all living entities. The Gautamiya Tantra also gives the following explanation of the word Param Brahma. The word krs means eternal transcendental existence and na means spiritual pleasure. These two syllables, meaning eternal existence and spiritual pleasure, are joined to become the word Krishna, the name of the Param Brahma. The Advaitavadis, monists, think the phrase Satisvanandayar Yoga in this verse means distinctions such as eternal existence and transcendental bliss lose their separateness and become one in the impersonal absolute. Because the words Sat and Ananda have different meanings, and because, even if these two words are taken to be synonyms, their repetition in a sentence is meaningless, as if we were to repeat the word Vargesa and Taru, which both mean tree within a single sentence, the conclusion of the impersonalists must be false. The word Sat, eternal, is used here to mean the Supreme Eternal, who is the source of all other eternals. This is described in these words of the Srutasastra, O noble student, in the beginning only the Eternal existed. The verse from the Gautamiya Tantra may be explained in the following way. The first half of the verse describes Lord Krishna, who is all attractive and full of transcendental bliss. The second half of the first states that because Lord Krishna is blissful and all attractive he delights all living entities. For this reason the scriptures declare, because they find transcendental bliss in him, the devotees have fallen in love with Sri Krishna. In this way the word Krishna should be understood to mean he who is full of transcendental bliss, and whose handsome form and transcendental qualities attract all living entities. For this reason popular usage interprets the word Devakanandana to mean he who pleases Devaki. Sri Krishna's delighting everyone may be seen in the following statement of the Vasudeva Upanishad, Lord Krishna, the son of Devaki delights everyone. Lord Krishna is independently perfect, eternally changeless, and the origin of all transcendental bliss. For these reasons the popular explanation of the word Devakanandana, he who pleases Devaki, should be accepted and not rejected in favor of the views of pedantic grammarians. This is confirmed by the following statement of great scholars, when popular usage interprets a word in a way very appropriate to the object it describes, that interpretation should be accepted. When scientific etymology interprets a word in a way not appropriate to the object described, that meaning should not be accepted. That Sri Krishna is the Supreme Brahman is affirmed in the words of Srimad Bhagavatam, the form of the Supreme Brahman is the human-like form of Sri Krishna. In Srimad Bhagavatam, 10.1432, is also said, how greatly fortunate are Nanda Maharaja, the cowherd men and all the inhabitants of Brajabhumi. There is no limit to their fortune because the absolute truth, the source of transcendental bliss, the eternal Supreme Brahma, has become their friend. In the Vinu Purana it is said, the Supreme Brahman, who has a human-like form and who bears the name Krishna, has descended to this world. In the Bhagavad Gita, 14.27, Lord Krishna declares, Tam the basis of the impersonal Brahman. In the Gopaladapani Upanishad it is said, the cowherd boy Krishna is the Supreme Brahman. Isvara. Now let us return to the first verse of Brahma Samhita. Now that we have explained the word Krishna, we will proceed to the word Isvara. Isvara means the supreme controller of everyone. This is seen in the following description of the word Krishna in the Gautamiya Tantra: the supreme personality of Godhead, the supreme controller, controls, KRS, all moving and unmoving beings. Therefore he is named Krishna. In this verse the word Kala means controller. It is derived from the verb Kal, which means to control. That Sri Krishna is the supreme controller is also confirmed by the following words of Srimad Bhagavatam 3.221. Lord Sri Krishna is the Lord of all kinds of threes and is independently supreme by achievement of all kinds of fortune. He is worshipped by the eternal maintainers of the creation, who offer him the paraphernalia of worship by touching their millions of helmets to his feet. In Bhagavad Gita 10.42, Lord Krishna declares, "With a single fragment of myself I pervade and support this entire universe." In the Gopaladapani Upanishad it is said, Sri Krishna is the worshipable and all-pervading supreme controller. Parama. Now that the word Isvara has been explained, we will describe the word Parama. Para means supreme and Ma means mother. The Paramas therefore are the goddesses of fortune who are Lord Krishna's internal potencies. They are described in these words of Srimad Bhagavatam 10.5943. Full of transcendental bliss, Lord Krishna enjoyed pastimes with the beautiful gopis, who were all goddesses of fortune. In Srimad Bhagavatam 10.4760, it is also said, when Lord Sri Krishna was dancing with the gopis in the Rasalila, the gopis were embraced by the arms of the Lord. This transcendental favor was never bestowed upon the goddess of fortune or the other consorts in the spiritual world. Indeed, never was such a thing even imagined by the most beautiful girls in the heavenly planets whose bodily luster and aroma resemble the lotus flower. And what to speak of worldly women who are very beautiful according to material estimation. In Srimad Bhagavatam 10.33. 6, it is also said, although the son of Devaki, the supreme personality of Godhead, is also the reservoir of all kinds of beauty, when he is among the gopis he nonetheless becomes more beautiful, for he resembles a Marakata jewel surrounded by gold and other jewels. In the Brahma Samhita 56, it is said, in Svetadvipa the Laxmis in their unalloyed spiritual essence practice the amorous service of the Supreme Lord Krishna as their only lover. In the Gopaladapani Upanishad it is said, Lord Krishna is worshipped by the goddess of fortune. Adi Sri Krishna is described as Adi, the origin of all. This is explained in the following words of Srimad Bhagavatam 10.7215. Hearing that Jarasandha had not been defeated, Maharaja Yudhisthira began to think of a plan to defeat him. At that time Lord Hari, who is the origin of all, spoke the plan that had already been formulated by Uddhava. The word Hari refers to Sri Krishna, who is the origin of all. That Sri Krishna is the supreme and the origin of all is declared in these words of Srimad Bhagavatam, I'll offer my respectful obeisances to Sri Krishna, the supreme personality of Godhead who is the origin of all. Anadai. Then again, Sri Krishna is not Adi but Anadai, he who has no origin. This is described in Gopaladapani Upanishad, which declares, Sri Krishna is the chief eternal among many eternals. Sarvakaranakaranam. Next, the word Sarvakaranakaranam means the prime cause of all causes. This means that he is the creator of the universes and the origin of the Purushayavatara. This is described in Srimad Bhagavatam 10.8531, where Devaki tells Lord Krishna, O Lord of the universe, O original supreme person, by a portion of a portion of a portion of yourself you create, maintain, and destroy the material universes. Now I take shelter of you. Sridhara Swami comments on this verse in these words, the first portion mentioned here is the Purushayavatara. A portion of him is the illusory potency Maya. A portion of Maya is the modes of nature. By a portion of the modes of nature the universes are created, maintained, and destroyed. TVA means of you and Gatam Gata means I take shelter. That Sri Krishna is the origin of the Purushayavatara is also described in the following prayer of Lord Brahma, Srimad Bhagavatam October 14, 14. O Lord Krishna, Narayana refers to one whose abode is in the water born from Nara, Garbhodakazayivinu, and that Narayana is your plenary portion. The word Narayana is also explained in these words, manifested from Lord Garbhodakazayivinu, Nara, the inert material elements are called Nara. Because the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the ultimate resting place, Ayana, of these material elements, Nara, he is known as Narayana. These words, then, mean, O Lord, Narayana is a portion of your body. That Sri Krishna is the origin of the Purasayavatara, a portion of whom creates, maintains, and destroys the universes is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, 10.42, where Lord Krishna declares, with a single fragment of myself I pervade and support this entire universe. By all of this the proper explanation of the word Krishna is given. By the two syllables Krs and Na the blissful Supreme Personality of Godhead is described. By the word Isvara and other words Lord Krishna's transcendental potencies are described. He is declared to be the Supreme, who has no rival, who is the prime cause of all causes, and who is the master of his internal potencies. His potencies are described in these words of the Sruti Sastra, the Supreme Brahman is full of transcendental bliss. In the Sruti Sastra it is also said, who can find transcendental bliss if he does not find it in the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In the Svetasvatara Upanishad, 6.8, it is said, the Supreme Personality of Godhead does not possess bodily form like that of an ordinary living entity. There is no difference between his body and his soul. He is absolute. All his senses are transcendental. Any one of his senses can perform the action of any other sense. Therefore, no one is greater than him or equal to him. His potencies are multifarious, and thus his deeds are automatically performed as a natural sequence. Saksi Idyananda Vigraha. At this point someone may raise the following objection, if Krishna is all attractive and filled with supreme transcendental bliss, then must he not be formless? After all, forms do not contain transcendental bliss. To this objection the following reply may be given, yes. That is true. Material forms do not contain transcendental bliss. However, Lord Krishna's wonderful form is filled with perfect transcendental bliss. This is described in the first verse of Brahma Samhita in the word Saksi Idyananda Vigraha, he has an eternal, blissful spiritual body. This truth is also confirmed in the following words of Srimad Bhagavatam, 10.1422. O Krishna, your eternal transcendental form is full of knowledge and bliss. In the Gopaladapani Upanishad and the Hayasirsapankaratra it is said, I'll offer my respectful obeisances to Lord Krishna, whose transcendental form is eternal and full of knowledge and bliss, and who rescues his devotees from distress. In the Brahmanda Purana, Astatarasat Namastatra, it is said, Lord Krishna's transcendental form is eternal and full of knowledge and bliss. Lord Krishna delights the residents of Nanda Maharaja's land of Braja. Sat. In these verses the word Sat should be understood to mean eternal and unchanging. That Lord Krishna's form is eternal and unchanging is confirmed by the following words of the demigods in Srimad Bhagavatam, 10.226. O Lord Krishna, you never deviate from your vow, which is always perfect because whatever you decide is perfectly correct and cannot be stopped by anyone. Being present in the three phases of cosmic manifestation, creation, maintenance, and annihilation, you are the supreme truth. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, 10.325, Devaki explains, after millions of years, at the time of cosmic annihilation, when everything, manifested and unmanifest is annihilated by the force of time, the five gross elements enter into the subtle conception, and the manifested categories enter into the unmanifest substance. At that time, you alone remain, and you are known as Ananta Sesanaga. In Srimad Bhagavatam, 10.327, Devaki also declares, no one in this material world has become free from the four principles of birth, death, old age, and disease, even by fleeing to various planets. But now that you have appeared, my Lord, death is fleeing in fear of you, and the living entities, having obtained shelter at your lotus feet by your mercy, are sleeping in full mental peace. In the scriptures it is also said, O Lord Krishna, in the beginning you alone were manifest. Lord Brahma also declares, in the end only the Supreme Brahman, who is free from all dualities, remains. In Bhagavad Gita, 14.27, Lord Krishna declares, and I am the basis of the impersonal Brahman, which is immortal, imperishable, and eternal, and is the constitutional position of ultimate happiness. In the Bhagavad Gita, 15.18, Lord Krishna also declares, because I am transcendental, beyond both the fallible and the infallible, and because I am the greatest, I am celebrated both in the world and in Vedas as that Supreme Person. In the Gopalotapani Upanishad it is said, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is always free from the material transformations of birth, death, old age, and disease. He is eternal and unchanging. He cannot be cut to pieces or killed by anyone. He stays in Vindavana. He stays among the cows. He protects the cows. He stays among the cowherd people. In the Gopalotapani Upanishad it is also said, death fears Lord Krishna. In this verse the word Surya means the land of Vrindavana. Surya means the sun god, Sari means the Yamuna river, who is the daughter of the sun god, and Surya means the land of Vrindavana, through which the Yamuna flows. Cit in this first verse of Brahma Samhita the word Cit refers to Lord Krishna's spiritual form, which he reveals to others when he wishes. This form is described by Lord Brahma in these words, Srimad Bhagavatam 10.1.423 You are the Supreme Soul, Absolute Truth, and the Supreme Original Person. You are the Supreme, one without a second. You are the source of the original Brahma Jyoti. This form of Krishna is also described in these words of Gopalotapani Upanishad, it is Krishna who in the beginning instructed Brahma in Vedic knowledge and who disseminated Vedic knowledge in the past. They who aspire to become liberated surrender to him, the Supreme Personality of Godhead who gives transcendental knowledge to his devotees. In the Sruti Sastra it is said, with material eyes one cannot see the form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In the Svetasvatara Upanishad it is said, by his own will the Supreme Personality of Godhead reveals himself to whomever he chooses. Ananda next we will discuss the explanation that Lord Krishna's transcendental body is full of bliss, Ananda. Lord Krishna's form is full of bliss because his limbs are the abode of the boundless love. That Sri Krishna is the blissful Supreme Personality of Godhead is explained in the questions and answers of Srimad Bhagavatam 10.14. 49-58. It is also explained in these words of Maharaja Vasudeva, Srimad Bhagavatam 10.313 My Lord, you are the blissful Supreme Person, beyond material existence, and you are the Super Soul. Your form can be perceived by transcendental knowledge, by which you can be understood as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I now understand your position perfectly. In the Sruti Sastra it is also said, the form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is full of bliss. In this way it is proved that Lord Krishna has a perfect, eternal, blissful, spiritual body, he does not have a material body like that of a conditioned soul. This is described in Srimad Bhagavatam, 10.1455, where Srila Sukadeva Goswami says, you should know Krishna as the original soul of all Atmas, living entities. For the benefit of the whole universe, he has, out of his causeless mercy, appeared as an ordinary human being. He has done this with the strength of his own internal potency. This verse states that by Lord Krishna's mercy he manifests pastimes like those of an ordinary human being who has a material body. The word Mayaya in this verse may be taken to mean by his mercy. The Vyavaprakaza dictionary declares, the word Maya may mean either illusion or mercy. Govinda Lord Krishna enjoys many different pastimes in his transcendental form. Sometimes he accepts the role of a king in the Vrsini dynasty, and sometimes he becomes Govinda, the protector of the Surabhi cows. This is described in Srimad Bhagavatam, 12.1125 O Krishna, O friend of Arjuna, O chief among the descendants of Vrsini, you are the destroyer of those political parties that are disturbing elements on this earth. Your prowess never deteriorates. You are the proprietor of the transcendental abode, and your most sacred glories, which are sung by Vrindavana's cowherd men and women and their servants, bestow all auspiciousness just by being heard. O Lord, please protect your devotees. By his own wish the Supreme Personality of Godhead manifests his worshipable form of Govinda and enjoys specific transcendental pastimes with specific eternal associates. The Govinda feature of the Lord will be glorified in Brahma Samhita beginning with text 29. Govinda is also described in Srimad Bhagavatam, 10.27 20-23, where, in the beginning of Govinda Abhiska, the Surabhi cow prayed, O Lord of the universe, you are our king, our Indra. When the Abhiska was completed, Srimad Bhagavatam explains, then the Surabhi cows gave the Lord the name Govinda. After narrating these pastimes, Srila Sukadeva Goswami prayed, may Lord Govinda, the king of the Surabhi cows, be pleased with us. Although Lord Krishna is the master and shelter of everyone, he is especially the master of the Surabhi cows. For this reason the name Govinda should not be taken lightly. The importance of the cows is described in these words of the Gosukta, Vedic yajanas are performed to worship the cows. The demigods rise out of respect for the cows. The 4 Vedas, 6 Vedanas, and the Pada method of recitation are all manifested from the cows. Lord Krishna is thus the master of the Surabhi cows, who are liberated souls descended to this world from the Goloka Vrindavana planet in the spiritual sky. Lord Brahma also worships the Govinda feature of the Lord, as Brahma himself declares in these words of the Gopalatapani Upanishad, 1.38 by offering prayers in the company of the Maruts and other demigods, I always please the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Govinda, whose form is eternal and full of knowledge and bliss, and who sits beneath a Kalpavarkasa tree. The glorious Surabhi cows and other residents of Vrindavana are also glorified in these words spoken by Brahma, Srimad Bhagavatam 10.1434. My dear Lord, Lamb most humbly praying at your lotus feet for you to please give me any sort of birth within this Vrindavana forest so that I may be able to be favored by the dust of the feet of some of the devotees of Vrindavana. Even if one am given the chance to grow just as the humble grass in this land, that will be a glorious birth for me. But if I am not so fortunate to take birth within the forest of Vrindavana, I beg to be allowed to take birth outside the immediate area of Vrindavana so that when the devotees go out they will walk over me. Even that would be a great fortune for me. I am just aspiring for a birth in which I will be smeared by the dust of the devotees' feet. I can see that everyone here is simply full of Krishna consciousness. They do not know anything but Mukunda. All the Vedas are indeed searching after the lotus feet of Krishna. Lord Krishna is also known as Nandanandana, the son of Maharaja Nanda. This feature of the Lord is described in these words, Srimad Bhagavatam 10.141, of Brahma, my dear Lord, you are the only worshipful Supreme Lord, Personality of Godhead. Therefore I am offering my humble obeisances and prayers just to please you. Your bodily features are of the color of clouds filled with water. You are glittering with silver electric flashes emanating from your yellow garments. Let me offer my respectful repeated obeisances unto the son of Maharaja Nanda who is standing before me with conch shell earrings and peacock feather on his head. His face is beautiful. He is wearing a helmet, garlanded by forest flowers. And he stands with a morsel of food in his hand. He is decorated with cane, flute, and a bugle made of buffalo horn. He stands before me with small lotus feet. In this way Govinda and the other transcendental names of the Lord are explained. To conclude this description of Lord Krishna as the Isvara, controller, and Paramsvara, supreme controller, we will now quote the Gautamiya Tantra's explanation of the Dvadasaksara mantra. In the Dvadasaksara mantra the word gopi means material nature and jana means the original feature of the Mahatatva. The word Vallabha means the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the shelter of both material nature and the Mahatatva, who is full of transcendental bliss, who is effulgent, and who, because he is the original creator of everything and because he is all-pervading within the material creation, is known as Isvara, the controller. Another interpretation is that the word gopi means the material nature and jana means the Lord's Vinotattva expansions. The word Vallabha means dear to them both, and it refers to Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the master of all causes and effects and who is glorified in the Vedas. Another interpretation is that the word Gopijana means the gopis, who attained spiritual perfection after many births. Lord Krishna is thus their husband. In this way Lord Krishna, who is the son of Nanda Maharaja, and who delights the three worlds, is described. In these verses the word Prakriti means the potency named Maya, who creates the material universes. The word Tattva Samuhaka means the original feature of the Mahatattva, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is referred to by the words Anayirasraya and Sandranandam Paramjyoti, is described as Vallabha. The word Prakriti, used in the second verse, means the Mahalakshmi potency, who is manifested from the Supreme Lord's own form, who is beyond the touch of the material energy, and who appears in the spiritual world of Vaikuntha. Amsamandalam means the Lord's three primary Venu expansions beginning with Lord Sankarsana. The phrase Anikajanmasadanam refers to the beginningless cycle of births described by Lord Krishna in these words of Bhagavad Gita, 4.5 Many births both you and have passed, O Arjuna. In this last interpretation the word Vallabha should be understood to mean Lord Krishna, the son of Maharaja Nanda. Maharaja Nanda's fatherhood of Lord Krishna is thus explained. Garga Muni told Maharaja Nanda, Srimad Bhagavatam, 10.814 For many reasons, this beautiful son of yours sometimes appeared previously as the son of Vasudeva. Because he appeared in Vasudeva's heart, Lord Krishna is also the son of Maharaja Vasudeva. This is described in the following words, Srimad Bhagavatam 10.216 The Supreme Personality of Godhead entered the mind of Vasudeva in full opulence. Lord Krishna is also the son of Braja's king because at the same moment when he appeared before Vasudeva, Lord Krishna also appeared before Nanda Maharaja. This fact is described in many scriptures. Therefore the parental love Nanda Maharaja bears for Lord Krishna is very appropriate. Lord Krishna was born as the son of Vasudeva and the son of Nanda at the same moment, just as Lord Varaha simultaneously was manifested on Varahaloka and as the son of Brahma. Maharaja Nanda's love for Krishna was pure and unmixed, but Maharaja Vasudeva's love was mixed with knowledge of his son's divinity and transcendental opulence. Therefore the explanation in Srimad Bhagavatam 10.8.14 is appropriate. In this way Lord Krishna is seen in the 12-syllable mantra. 2. The spiritual place of transcendental pastimes of Krishna is portrayed in the second verse. The super-excellent station of Krishna, which is known as Gokula, has thousands of petals and a corolla like that of a lotus sprouted from a part of his infinitary aspect, the whirl of the leaves being the actual abode of Krishna. Commentary by Srila Jiva Goswami. Next the author describes the eternal abode of Sri Krishna. He describes it as a 1,000-petal lotus flower in this verse, and later, in text 56, he will describe it as a lotus flower made of Sintamani jewels. In this second verse the word Maha means super excellent and Padam means station. Maha may also be taken to mean the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, and Padam may mean his abode of Maha Vaikuntha. In this way the meanings may be interpreted in various ways. In popular usage the word Gokula is taken to mean a place of Gopas. Because this interpretation is very appropriate, Rudir Yogam Apaharati, it should be accepted. It is this interpretation of the word Gokula that is accepted when the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam explains, Bhagavan Gokulesvara, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the king of Gokula. In the latter part of Brahma Samhita also, Gokula will be described as a transcendental realm where Sri Krishna resides with Nanda, Yasoda, and the other cowherd people. In this verse the word Ananta means Lord Baladeva, Amsana means with a portion of his bodily effulgence, and Samhavam means is eternally manifested. This is also described in the Tantras. In this way it is understood that the abode of Sri Krishna is manifested from a portion of the potency of Lord Baladeva, who is known as Ananta. 3. The whirl of that transcendental lotus is the realm wherein dwells Krishna. It is a hexagonal figure, the abode of the indwelling predominated and predominating aspect of the Absolute. Like a diamond, the central supporting figure of self-luminous Krishna stands as the transcendental source of all potencies. The holy name is manifested in a hexagonal figure with six-fold divisions. Commentary by Srila Jiva Goswami. In these two verses the author describes the primary place of the great 18-syllable mantra, which is worshipped by all other mantras. The yantra pattern described here is worthy of the most respectful worship. The pattern is described as a hexagon eclipsing the bija syllable, klim, inscribed in a diamond, vajrakilakam. The word ca indicates the four, kater, other words of the mantra also written in diamond around the bija syllable. In this way the 6 words of the mantra are inscribed on the 6 parts of the hexagon. The word prakriti indicates the place where the mantra is written. Because Sri Krishna is its creator, that prakriti is also Sri Krishna himself. The word purasa indicates Sri Krishna in his aspect as the supreme controller. Both prakriti and purasa are thus situated within the hexagon. Sri Krishna may be considered in 4 ways, 1 as the origin of the mantra, 2 as the syllables of the mantra, 3 as the supreme controller, and 4 as the ultimate object of worship. Sri Krishna's nature as the origin of the mantra and the supreme controller have already been described here. Sri Krishna's position as the supreme controller was described in the first verse of this Brahma Samhita in the words Isvara Parama Krishna. Lord Krishna's identity as the syllables of the mantra will be described later in the Brahma Samhita in the words Kama Krishnaya. Sri Krishna's identity with the sacred mantra is also explained in the following words of the Hayasir Sapankaratra. The wise know there is no difference between the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the mantras that contain His holy name. There is no difference between the Supreme Person and His holy name. This is confirmed by the following words of Gopaladapani Upanishad, 1.16. Although originally one, air becomes the 5 life airs in the bodies of all living entities. In the same way Lord Krishna becomes this 5-word mantra. Sometimes Goddess Durga is also described as the supreme controller. This is also correct because there is no difference between the potencies and Lord Krishna, the master of all potencies. This is confirmed by the following words of the Gautamiya Tantra, Krishna is Durga. Durga is Krishna. One who sees that they are different will not become liberated from the cycle of repeated birth and death. Durga is the personal potency of Lord Krishna, and therefore she is Lord Krishna himself. For this reason Durga should not be considered manifested from a portion of the Lord's illusory potency Maya. This fact is confirmed by the following statement of the Nirukti, even if one continually worships her, Durga is still difficult to understand. Durga is also described in Narada Pankaratra, in the following conversation of Sruti and Vidya. Durga is the supreme goddess. She is an incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. She is the transcendental potency of the Lord. She is manifested from the form of Lord Mahavinu. Simply by understanding her one immediately attains the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is not otherwise. She is identical with Gokula's queen Sri Radha, who possesses a great treasure of love for Krishna. By her grace the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the master of all living entities, is easily understood. She is the potency of personified devotional service. She worships her beloved Supreme Lord. Because she is understood only with great difficulty, the saintly devotees call her Durga, difficult to understand. She is the personal potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and she is always filled with the nectar of love for Him. From her is manifested the Mahamaya potency, the controller of all conditioned souls, who covers them with illusion. By this Mahamaya potency the residents of the entire world are bewildered into thinking themselves identical with their external material bodies. In the Samohana Tantra, Durga herself declares, Tam Durga. I possess all virtues. I am not different from Sri Radha, the eternal, supreme goddess of fortune. In this way the word Durga is explained. In this verse of Brahma Samhita the words Premananda and Mahananda refer to the fullest development of transcendental bliss. Jyotirupina means self-manifested, and Manana means by the mantra. The mantra is accompanied by the bija syllable, Kamabhijina Sangatam. The Kamabija syllable in this mantra elaborately described in another passage where the independence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is explained. For the whirl of that eternal realm Gokula is the hexagonal abode of Krishna. Its petals are the abodes of gopis who are part and parcel of Krishna, to whom they are most lovingly devoted and are similar in essence. The petals shine beautifully like so many walls. The extended leaves of that lotus are the garden-like Dhamma, i.e. spiritual abode of Sri Radhika, the most beloved of Krishna. Commentary by Srila Jiva Goswami. The surrounding features of that abode are described in this half-verse. The word Kinjalka here means the outer petals, and Tadamsanam means his parts and parcels, who are naturally full of love for him. All this describes the realm named Gokula, Gokulakya, which is also described in these words of Srila Sukadeva Goswami, Srimad Bhagavatam 10.36-15. In this way Lord Krishna killed the bull demon Arista. Then, accompanied by Balarama and glorified by his relatives, Lord Krishna, who is a festival of bliss for the gopis' eyes, entered the village of Gokula. The words Patrani Sriyam mean the leaves of that lotus are the garden abodes of Sri Radha and the other gopi lovers of Lord Krishna. Because the gopis are specifically described in the mantra written in this abode, it should be understood that the word Sriyam here refers to the gopis. Among the gopis Sri Radha is the leader. This is described in the following words of Sri Gautamiya Tantra. The transcendental goddess Ramati Radharani is the direct counterpart of Lord Sri Krishna. She is the central figure for all the goddesses of fortune. She possesses all the attraction to attract the all-attractive personality of Godhead. She is the primeval internal potency of the Lord. Sri Radha is also described in these words of the Matsya Purana. Sri Radha is the goddess who rules Vrindavana forest. In the RK Parasista it is said, Lord Krishna always stays with Sri Radha. Sri Radha always stays with Lord Krishna. The word Gostha here means the place where many large extended leaves and petals meet. Because it is like a great unbroken lotus flower, and also because it is the abode, sta, of the Surabhi cows, Go, the land of Gokula is also known as Gostha. The abode of Gokula is also described in these words of the scriptures. Lord Krishna's abode is a 1,000-petal lotus flower. Many goddesses of fortune reside on that flower's leaves, and the gopas reside in the petals in the middle of that lotus. I worship Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Master of all transcendental potencies, who also resides in that lotus flower. In this verse the reading Gosankhya is correct. An alternate reading Gosankhya has the same meaning. They both mean with the gopas. This is confirmed by the following words of Amarakosa, Gopala. Gosankhya, Godugda, Abhira, and Balava are synonyms for the word Gopa. The word Kavate, within the gates, here means in the midst of the lotus petals. The phrase the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Master of all transcendental potencies here refers to Sri Krishna. 5. The surrounding external plane of Gokula is described in this verse. There is a mysterious quadrangular place named Svetadvipa surrounding the outskirts of Gokula. Svetadvipa is divided into 4 parts on all sides. The abode of Vasudeva, Sankarsana, Pradyumna, and Anuruddha are separately located in each of these 4 parts. These 4 divided abodes are enveloped by the fourfold human requirements such as piety, wealth, passion, and liberation, as also by the 4 Vedas, viz., Arji, Sama, Yajur, and Atharva, which deal with the mantra and which are the basis of achievements of the fourfold mundane requirements. 10 tridents are fixed in the 10 directions, including the zenith and nadir. The 8 directions are decorated with the 8 jewels of Mahapadma, Padma, Sankha, Makara, Kakapa, Mukunda, Kunda, and Nila. There are 10 protectors, Dikpalas, of the 10 directions in the form of mantra. The associates of the hues of blue, yellow, red, and white and the extraordinary potencies bearing the names of Vimala, etc., shine on all sides. Commentary by Srila Jiva Goswami. In the 4 verses that comprise text 5, the author describes the surrounding external plane of Gokula. The word Kacharasram here refers to the quadrangular place named Svetadvipa surrounding the outskirts of Gokula. This Svetadvipa is another name for Gokula. Although this Svetadvipa is within the boundary of Gokula, because it is a specific part of Gokula, it is given a separate name. This quadrangular place should therefore be known to be the place named Vindavana. Vrindavana is described in the Svayambhuvagama in the passage beginning Dhye Tatra Visuddhatma item Sarvam Kriminavai. In these words, Vrindavana is filled with beautiful flowers, trees, and birds. In this way one should meditate on Vrindavana. Vrindavana is also described in the Vamana Purana, where the personified Vedas offer the following prayers to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In ancient times the great sages saw your blissful transcendental form. O Lord, if you wish to grant us a benediction, then please reveal to us that same transcendental form. Hearing these words, the Supreme Personality of Godhead revealed to them the land of Gokula, which is beyond the touch of material energy. Within that Gokula Dhamma he revealed the eternal, blissful, transcendental Kalpavrikesa tree forest named Vrindavana. The words Kacharas Ram Katar Murte refer to the quadruple expansions of Vasudeva, Sankarsana, Pradyumna, and Anuradha. Katardhamma Kataskritam refers to the four abodes placed in four directions to accommodate the Lord's different pastimes. Hitubhi refers to the four Purusarthas, piety, wealth, passion, and liberation. Manurupe refers to the mantras of the Sama, Arji, Yajur, and Atharva Vedas chanted by Indra and his followers. Saktibhi refers to Vimaladevi and other potencies of the Lord. The planet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is also described in these words of Srimad Bhagavatam, 10.28-10-17. Nanda Maharaja had been astonished to see for the first time the great opulence of Varuna, the ruler of the ocean planet, and also to see how Varuna and his servants had offered such humble respect to Krishna. Nanda described all this to his fellow cowherd men. Hearing about Krishna's pastimes with Varuna, the cowherd men considered that Krishna must be the Supreme Lord, and their minds, O king, were filled with eagerness. They thought, will the Supreme Lord bestow upon us his transcendental abode? Because he sees everything, Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, automatically understood what the cowherd men were conjecturing. Wanting to show his compassion to them by fulfilling their desires, the Lord thought as follows. Lord Krishna thought, certainly people in this world are wandering among higher and lower destinations, which they achieve through activities performed according to their desires and without full knowledge. Thus people do not know their real destination. Thus deeply considering the situation, the all-merciful Supreme Personality of Godhead Hari revealed to the cowherd men his abode, which is beyond material darkness. Lord Krishna revealed the indestructible spiritual effulgence, which is unlimited, conscious, and eternal. Sages see that spiritual effulgence in trance, when their consciousness is free of the modes of material nature. The cowherd men were brought by Lord Krishna to the Brahma Rata, made to submerge in the water, and then lifted up. From the same vantage point that Akruras saw the spiritual world, the cowherd men saw the planet of the absolute truth. Nanda Maharaja and the other cowherd men felt the greatest happiness when they saw that transcendental abode. They were especially amazed to see Krishna himself there, surrounded by the personified Vedas, who were offering him prayers. In these verses the word Adindrayam means never seen before, Svagatam means own abode, Suksman means difficult to understand, and Upadhasyat means the people of Braja desired that Lord Krishna would take them to his own spiritual abode. Understanding their desire, the Lord then mercifully, Kripaya, considered, Asantaya, how their desire might be fulfilled, Sankalpasiddhe. The word Jana here means O, my friends and relatives, the residents of Braja. In Srimad Bhagavatam, 3.29-13, the Supreme Personality of Godhead declares, a pure devotee does not accept any kind of liberation, salokya, sarsti, samapya, sarapya, or ekatva, even though they are offered by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In either the spiritual or material worlds no devotees are said to be greater devotees than the people of Braja. That the people of Braja are the dear friends and relatives are described in these words of Lord Krishna, the people of Braja are my friends. They have taken shelter of me and they consider me their Lord and Master. I will now protect them with my mystic power. vow that will rescue them. The word Atasman Lok means in this material world, and Akavaka means engaged in ignorant materialistic activities. The conditioned souls rotate in various species of life, becoming sometimes a demigod and sometimes an animal, and Svamgatam Brahman means overcome by ignorance. They do not understand the existence of the spiritual world. This means, because they have no knowledge of my transcendental pastimes in this world, they remain in ignorance. Knowledge of Lord Krishna's pastimes in this world frees one from the bonds of material ignorance. That is described in these words of Srimad Bhagavatam, 10.1158. In this way all the cowherd men, headed by Nanda Maharaja, enjoyed topics about the pastimes of Krishna and Balarama with great transcendental pleasure, and they could not even perceive material tribulations. From this statement of the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam we may understand that the Lord's pastimes in this world are completely unlike the ignorant materialistic activities of the conditioned souls. The words Svamloka mean the Goloka planet that the Lord revealed to the Gopas. Because of the manifestation of the Lord's personal transcendental potency, the Goloka planet is Tamasa Param, above the darkness of the material world. In the verse beginning with the word Satyam, the author explains that the Goloka planet is eternal and full of knowledge and bliss. Here someone may protest, why do you insist that these words describe Sri Vrindavana? They may describe many other places in the spiritual world as well. To answer this question the author speaks the next verse, where he specifically describes the geography of Vrindavana. In that verse he says, Lord Krishna took them to Brahmarata, also known as Akrura Tirtha. They entered, Magna, the water and then rose, Udrata, again out of the water, and then they saw their own abode in the spiritual world, Brahmanolokam. In other words, the spiritual planet they saw was Goloka. That the word Brahmaloka may be used to mean the spiritual world is confirmed by these words of Srimad Bhagavatam, 2.539 Satyaloka, the topmost planetary system, is situated on the head of the form. The spiritual planets, Brahmaloka, however, are eternal. Someone may ask, what is Brahmarata? The author answers this question with the words Yatrakruro Dhyagat Purag Vair Akrura was later shown the spiritual world. The author mentions this point to establish the glory of this sacred place. The word Svamgatam means their abode, or in other words the planet of the Gopas, the intention being clearly possessive, Sasthavibhakti. For this reason it should be understood that the planet described here is Goloka. The use of the word Krishna in the last verse also affirms that the spiritual planet described here is Goloka and not any other planet in the Vaikuntha planetary system. The Goloka planet is also described in the Harivamsa, where the demigod Indra says, above the moon and above Svargaloka is the spiritual world of Vaikuntha, which is served by the sages and brahmanas, and which is the abode of effulgent liberated souls. Above Vaikuntha is Goloka, the planet of Surabhi cows. It is splendid and all-pervading. Lord Krishna stays there. The great liberated souls stay there. We do not know of any realm higher than this. We asked Grandfather Brahma and he also did not know. They who control their senses and perform pious deeds go to Svargaloka. They who perform spiritual austerities go to the spiritual world of Vaikuntha. Goloka, the realm of Surabhi cows, is very difficult to attain. O hero, you are always active in service to Lord Krishna, therefore you are qualified to enter Goloka. In these verses the author explains that Goloka is above all other planets. The phrase Svargat Urdvam means that Goloka is above the three material planetary systems. Somagata means that Goloka is above the moon. Chittasam means that it is above Dhruvaloka. Sadhyastam Palayanti means that it is not the residence of the demigods in the upper material planets. It is above that residence. Goloka is the transcendental abode of Surabhi cows. Here someone may protest, you say this planet is all-pervading, Sahai Sarvagata. It is not possible for a planet of Surabhi cows to be all-pervading. To this objection reply, the influence of the inconceivable internal potency of the Supreme Lord make it possible for Goloka to be all-pervading. This all-pervasiveness is not possible for other, for ordinary places. Because Goloka is above all other planets, Indra became struck with wonder to see it. His wonder is expressed by the word api in the phrase Tatrapi Tavagata, and it is also expressed in the phrase Yam no vidmo vayam sarv. In this way it is proved that Goloka is not a material planet that is a residence for ordinary cows. Goloka is also described in the Moksadharma, Narayana Yapakana, where the Supreme Personality of Godhead says, appearing in many different forms, O son of Kunti, I wander on this earth, on Brahmaloka and on the eternal planet of Goloka. The word Svargaloka used in these verses of Harivamsa is explained in these words of Srimad Bhagavatam, 2.542. Others may divide the whole planetary system into three divisions, namely the lower planetary systems on the legs, up to the earth, the middle planetary systems on the navel, and the upper planetary systems, Svarloka, from the chest to the head of the Supreme Personality. In this verse the word Svarloka means the 5 planets beginning with Svarloka and reaching up to Satyaloka. Urdhvam means above that. Brahmaloka may mean the great, Brahma, planet because it is eternal and full of knowledge and bliss, or it may mean the planet of the Supreme Brahman, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This interpretation of the word Brahmaloka is confirmed by the following statement of Srimad Bhagavatam, 2.539. Satyaloka, the topmost planetary system, is situated on the head of the form. The spiritual planets, Brahmaloka, however, are eternal. Sridhara Swami comments on this verse in the following words, Brahmaloka here means Vaikunthaloka. Sanatana means eternal, or not within the realm of the created material world. This definition of Brahmaloka is also confirmed by the following words of the Sruti Sastra, the spiritual world, Brahmaloka, is the residence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The phrase Brahmarsi Ganasevita means that the Goloka planet is worshipped by the Brahmanas, personified Vedas, the sages headed by Narada, and the Ganas headed by Garuda and Visvaksana. The eternal residents of that Brahmaloka are described in the words Tatra Somagata, Lord Shiva resides there with his wife Uma. Lord Shiva himself describes the Goloka planet in these words of the Rudrajata in Srimad Bhagavatam, 4.2429. A person who executes his occupational duty properly for 100 births becomes qualified to occupy the post of Brahma, and if he becomes more qualified, he can approach Lord Shiva. A person who is directly surrendered to Lord Krishna, or Vinu, in unalloyed devotional service is immediately promoted to the spiritual planets. Lord Shiva and other demigods attain these planets after the destruction of this material world. The word Soma is asastha tat purasasamasa as described by Panini in the sutras beginning Supam Suluk. The word Jyoti refers to the Brahman effulgence of the liberated impersonalists. Not all transcendentalists are impersonalists, however. The devotees, who reject the liberation attained by Mahatmanam. The devotees are described in these words of Srimad Bhagavatam, 6.1450. Sage, among many millions who are liberated and perfect in knowledge of liberation, one may be a devotee of Lord Narayana, or Krishna. Such devotees, who are fully peaceful, are extremely rare. In the Bhagavad Gita, 6.47, Lord Krishna declares, and of all yogis, the one with great faith who always abides in me, thinks of me within himself and renders transcendental loving service to me, he is most intimately united with me in yoga and is the highest of all. That is my opinion. In this way the greatness of the devotees is proved. The word Tajya means of Brahmaloka and the words Uparagavam Loka refer to Goloka. The word Sadhya refers to the class of material demigods who protect the various directions leading to Goloka. They are described in these words of the Sruti Sastra, the Sadhya demigods guard the approach to the spiritual sky. In the Padma Purana, Uttarakanda's description of Mahavaikuntha it is said, the splendid and eternal Sadhyas and Visvedavas guard the approach to the spiritual sky. In order to attain perfection in devotional service the Sadhyas carefully protect the Gopas, Gopis and other residents of Goloka, who are all glorified in the following prayer of Brahma, Srimad Bhagavatam 10.1.434. My dear Lord, Lamb, most humbly praying at your lotus feet for you to please give me any sort of birth within this Vrindavana forest, so that may be able to be favored by the dust of the feet of some of the devotees of Vrindavana. Even if I am given the chance to grow just as the humble grass in this land, that will be a glorious birth for me. But if I am not so fortunate to take birth within the forest of Vrindavana, I beg to be allowed to take birth outside the immediate area of Vrindavana, so that when the devotees for out they will walk over me. Even that would be a great fortune for me. Am just aspiring for a birth in which will be smeared by the dust of the devotees' feet. Can see that everyone here is simply full of Krishna consciousness. They do not know anything but Mukunda. All the Vedas are indeed searching after the lotus feet of Krishna. The all-pervasiveness of Goloka is described in the phrase Sa Hi Sarvagata, where Hi means certainly, Sar refers to Goloka, and Sarvagata means present everywhere in both material and spiritual worlds, in the same way that Lord Narayana is also present there. As the second canto of Srimad Bhagavatam describes Brahma's vision of Vaikunthālika, so this passage describes the spiritual realm inhabited by the Vrajavasis. The word Mahan refers to the transcendental form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is described in the following words of the Srutasastra: the transcendental form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is great, Mahan. The word Mahakazam refers to the spiritual sky known as Paravyoma. This is described in the following words of the Naya Siddhi: the spiritual sky is manifested from the transcendental form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The word Tadgata means manifesting a spiritual form and entering the spiritual world of Vaikuntha as Ajamala did. Yupari Yupara means above everything else, Tatra means in Sri Goloka, and Tavagata means where the Supreme Personality of Godhead, in his form as Govinda, enjoys transcendental pastimes. This is not an ordinary place, but is Tapomai, or full of transcendental opulence. This interpretation of the word Tapomai is confirmed by these words of the Sahasranamabhasya: Tapa here means transcendental opulence. In the Sruti Sastra it is said, the spiritual sky is full of transcendental opulence. Because Goloka cannot be understood by the philosophical speculations of Brahma and other philosophers, the words Yam na vidmo vayam sarv, we cannot understand Goloka, were spoken. Now we will explain the origin of the word Goloka. This is given in the verse beginning with the word Gata. In this passage the word Brahm means in the realm of Brahmaloka, Tapasi means fixing the mind on Sri Krishna, and Yutanam means of the pure devotees. This explanation of the word Tapa is confirmed by the following words of the Sruti Sastra: Tapa means awareness of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Brahmaloka here means Vaikunthālika, and Para means beyond the influence of material energy. Gavam means of the cows who reside in Vraja. These cows are described in the following words of the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam: he protected the cows from the heat of the day. The exalted status of these cows and the other residents of Goloka is only attained by persons who have pure love for Lord Krishna. It cannot be attained by performing severe austerities or by any method, and for this reason the word Duraroha, Goloka is very difficult to attain, is spoken. Here the word Drita means protected. By lifting Govardhana hill and by performing many other pastimes, Lord Krishna protected Goloka. Goloka is also described in these words of the RG Veda: O Krishna and Balarama, we aspire to attain that place where you enjoy transcendental pastimes, and where there are beautiful Surabhi cows with large horns. The Vedas describe that place as the transcendental abode of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who fulfills all desires. In this verse the word Ta means these, Vam means of you both, or in other words of Krishna and Balarama. Vastuni means places of pastimes, Gamadhaya means to attain, and Asmasi means we desire. The question may be asked, how may the pastime places be more elaborately described? The answer is given in the phrase beginning with the word Yatra. Yatra means in which places, and Borisranjya means cows with large horns. The word Bori is explained in the passage from the Upanishads. The word Bori here means great, not numerous. The dictionary explains, the word Bori means either numerous or great. Ayasa here means beautiful. This is confirmed by the Amarikosa, which gives the following definition: the word Aya here means beautiful. The word Ayasa here uses the affix sa as in the word Devasa. Vrasna means fulfilling all desires, Atra means in this place celebrated in the Vedas as Goloka, Uraga Yajya means of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Buri means manifested in many ways, and Aha means the Vedas declares. An example of this Vedic description is found in the following words of the Madhyandina Yajurveda: we aspire to go to the transcendental abode of Lord Vishnu, which is filled with many wonders. In these words, and in many other passages of the Vedas, the realm of Goloka is described. 6. The Lord of Gokula is the transcendental Supreme Godhead, the own self of eternal ecstasies. He is the superior of all superiors and is busily engaged in the enjoyments of the transcendental realm and has no association with his mundane potency. Commentary by Srila Jiva Goswami. Now we will explain the words of this verse. Just as the non-difference of the Virat Purasa, universal form, and the Antaryami, the all-pervading super-soul, was explained in the Purasa Sukta and other passages of the scriptures, in the same way the author of the Brahma Samhita speaks this verse to establish the identity of Goloka and its superintending deity. In this verse the word Deva means Sri Govinda, the presiding deity of Goloka. The word Sadanandada, eternal and full of bliss, describes his transcendental form. This is described in the following words of Sruti Sastra: the form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is full of transcendental knowledge and bliss. The word Atmaramajya, of he who does not need anyone else to obtain happiness, Prakriti means with the material potency Maya, and Na Samagama means has no association. This is described in the following words of Srimad Bhagavatam 2.910: in that personal abode of the Lord, the material modes of passion and ignorance do not prevail, nor is there any of their influence in goodness. There is no predominance of time, so what to speak of the illusory external energy? It cannot enter that region. OU7 Krishna never consorts with his illusory energy. Still her connection is not entirely cut off from the absolute truth. When he intends to create the material world, the amorous pastime, in which he engages by consorting with his own spiritual, CIT, potency Rama by casting his glance at the deluding energy in the shape of sending his time energy, is an auxiliary activity. Commentary by Srila Jiva Goswami. In this verse the author explains that the Purusha Avatara, who appears in the material world and is a partial expansion of Lord Krishna, does not manifest the same features as Lord Krishna. This is true because when the material world becomes unmanifest, then the Purusha Avatara declines to manifest his transcendental form. All this is described in the verse beginning with the word Yajyamsam Samsabhajina. Here someone may object: is it not true that because he is in contact with the material energy, as are the conditioned souls, the Purusha Avatara should not be considered to be an expansion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead? To answer this objection the author has spoken the second half of this verse. The word Atmana here means by the Supreme Personality of Godhead who is present in the material world, Ramaya means with his personal potency, and Reem means enjoys pastimes. The external potency Maya assumes a different function, for she serves the Lord in a different capacity. The Lord's internal potency Rama is described by Lord Brahma in the following words, Srimad Bhagavatam 3.923: the Supreme Lord, the Personality of Godhead, is always the benefactor of the surrendered souls. His activities are always enacted through his internal potency, Rama, or the goddess of fortune. Arjuna prays to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Srimad Bhagavatam 1.723: you are the original personality of Godhead who expands himself all over the creations and is transcendental to material energy. You have cast away the effects of the material energy by dint of your spiritual potency. You are always situated in eternal bliss and transcendental knowledge. Here someone may ask, without the Lord's first ordering the illusory potency Maya, how is it possible for the material world to be created? The author of Brahma Samhita answers this question in this verse. Here the word Sisrakasaya means with a desire to create, Tyakta means sent for the purpose of creation, and Kalo means he manifests time for this purpose. The Prabhava form of the Lord is thus described in Srimad Bhagavatam 3.26:16. The influence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is felt in the time factor, which causes fear of death due to the false ego of the deluded soul who has contacted material nature. In Srimad Bhagavatam 3.5:26, it is also said, the Supreme Living Being in his feature as the Transcendental Purisa Incarnation, who is the Lord's plenary expansion, impregnates the material nature of three modes, and thus by the influence of eternal time the living entities appear. 8. The secondary process of association with Maya is described. Ramadevi, the spiritual, CIT, potency, beloved consort of the Supreme Lord, is the regulatrix of all entities. The divine plenary portion of Krishna creates the mundane world. At creation there appears a divine halo of the nature of his own subjective portion, Svamsa. This halo is divine Samhu, the masculine symbol or manifested emblem of the Supreme Lord. This halo is the dim twilight reflection of the supreme eternal effulgence. This masculine symbol is the subjective portion of divinity who functions as progenitor of the mundane world, subject to the supreme regulatrix, Nayati. The conceiving potency in regard to mundane creation makes her appearance out of the supreme regulatrix. She is Maya the limited, non-absolute, apara, potency, the symbol of mundane feminine productivity. The intercourse of these two brings forth the faculty of perverted cognition, the reflection of the seed of the procreative desire of the Supreme Lord. Commentary by Srila Jiva Goswami. Here someone may ask, who is Rama? To answer this question the author speaks this half-verse, beginning with the word Nayata. Nayata means the Supreme Lord's personal potency who acts as a controller, and Devi means the effulgent goddess who appears by her own desire. She is described in the following words of Srimad Bhagavatam 12.1120. The goddess of fortune, Sri, who never leaves the Lord's side, appears with him in this world as the representation of his internal potency. Srila Sridhara Swami comments on this verse in these words, this potency is the constant companion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The reason for this is given in the phrase Saksat Atmana, which means that because she is personally manifested from the transcendental body of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, she is not different from him. Because the word Saksat is used here, this explanation cannot be taken to describe the external potency Maya, who is described in the following words of Srimad Bhagavatam 2.513. The illusory energy of the Lord cannot take precedence, being ashamed of her position. That Ramadevi is the constant companion of the Lord is described in these words of Vinu Purana, Goddess Sri is Lord Vinu's constant companion. She is the mother of the universes. O best of Brahmanas, as Lord Vinu is all-pervading, so also is Goddess Sri. It is also said, as Lord Vinu, the master of the universes and the supreme controller of the demigods, incarnations in the material world, so also does his constant companion Goddess Sri. Here someone may object, is it said somewhere that there is a cause of Shiva and Durga? The answer is that as the universal form is manifested from Lord Vinu, so also are Shiva and Durga. That is confirmed in this verse by the word Tal Lingam. In the Vinu Purana it is said, the potency of the material world is manifested from a part of a millionth part of Lord Vinu. Thus a small part of Lord Vinu's spiritual effulgence is manifested as the linga described here. That linga is Samhu. A specific manifestation of that is called Samhu. That is the means. This will be further described in text 45 of the Brahma Samhita. The yoni or unmanifest Maya receives the seed. The word apara indicated that the yoni is the potency known as pradhana. This is the desire, of the partial expansion of Lord Hari for the purpose of creation, the Lord desires to glance. That is the meaning. From this comes the seed of the Mahatattva. This is explained in the following words of the Sridhasastra, the Lord desired, let there be creation. And then there was creation. This is also confirmed in Srimad Bhagavatam 3.5.26, which was quoted at the end of the commentary on text 7. 9. All offspring of the consort of the great Lord, Mahesvara, of this mundane world are of the nature of the embodiment of the mundane masculine and feminine generative organs. Commentary by Srila Jiva Goswami. Because he is not different from the Lord, Siva is independent. The word linga has the same meaning as in the previous verse. The word Mahesvari means of Mahesvari. 10. The person embodying the material causal principle, viz., the great Lord of this mundane world, Mahesvara, Samhu, in the form of the male generating organ, is joined to his female consort the limited energy, Maya, as the efficient causal principle. The Lord of the world Mahavinu is manifest in him by his subjective portion in the form of his glance. Commentary by Srila Jiva Goswami. The first half of this verse describes the condition where the Lord is not manifested, and the second half of the verse describes the condition where the Lord is manifested. The words Lingarupi, Saktiman and Purisa refer to Lord Siva, who is a partial expansion of the Supreme Lord and who is the creator of the material world. The words Tasman and Ling mean in the world of gross and subtle matter. In that world Lord Vinu, the origin of the Amsavataras, became manifest. The word Jagatpada means the master of all living entities, from the highest to the lowest. 11. The Lord of the mundane world, Mahavinu, possesses thousands of heads, eyes, hands. He is the source of thousands of avataras in his thousands of subjective portions. He is the creator of thousands of individual souls. Commentary by Srila Jiva Goswami. In this verse the author describes the form of Lord Vinu. The word Sahasramsa means he from whom thousands of Amsavataras come, and Sahasrasu means he who creates thousands of individual souls. The word Sahasra here means an unlimited number. This form of Lord Vinu is described in these words of Srimad Bhagavatam, 2.642, Karanarnavase I Vinu is the first incarnation of the Supreme Lord. Srila Sridhara Swami comments on this verse. Here the Bhumapurisa, the creator of the material world, is described. The Adiyovatara here is the pastime form of the Lord, which is also described in the passage beginning with the words Yajya Sahasra Sursa 12. The same Mahavinu is spoken of by the name of Narayana in this mundane world. From that eternal person has sprung the vast expanse of water of the spiritual causal ocean. The subjective portion of Sankarsana who abides in Paravyoma, the above Supreme Purisa with thousands of subjective portions, reposes in the state of divine sleep, Yoganidra, in the waters of the spiritual causal ocean. Commentary by Srila Jiva Goswami. The first half of this verse describes Lord Karanarnavasya Vinu. The word Apa means the Karana ocean is manifested. The word Sankarsanatmaka here refers to Lord Narayana. The Sankarsana here is an expansion of the Sankarsana in the Katarviha who guard Goloka. That is the proper conclusion. The pastimes of this incarnation are described in the word Yoganidram, which describes his meditative trance of bliss. He is also described in these words of the scriptures. The word Nara means the water of the Karana ocean. The living entities are considered children born from that water. The Lord is the resting place, Ayana, of that water, and therefore he is known as Narayana. 13. The spiritual seeds of Sankarsana existing in the pores of skin of Mahavinu, are born as so many golden sperms. These sperms are covered with 5 great elements. Commentary by Srila Jiva Goswami. In this verse the author describes the birth of the material universes from the Lord. The word Tat here means of him. The seeds from Lord Sankarsana are placed in the womb. As a result the material universes made of gross and subtle matter are manifested from the pores of the skin. Then they are born as so many golden sperms. These sperms are covered with 5 great material elements. In Srimad Bhagavatam, 10.1411, Lord Brahma prays to Lord Krishna, O Lord, what is your glory? Unlimited universes pass through the pores of your body just as particles of dust pass through the openings of a screened window. In Srimad Bhagavatam, 3.1140-41, it is said, this phenomenal world is expanded to a diameter of 4 billion miles, as a combination of 8 material elements transformed into 16 further categories, within and without, as follows. The layers of elements covering the universes are each 10 times thicker than the one before, and all the universes clustered together appear like atoms in a huge combination. 14. The same Mahavinu entered into each universe as his own separate subjective portions. The divine portion, that entered into each universe are possessed of his majestic extension, i.e., they are the eternal universal soul Mahavinu, possessing thousands of heads. Commentary by Srila Jiva Goswami. Then, expanding to many separate forms, the Lord enters each universe. That is explained in this verse. The words akamsid mean with many separate subjective portions. 15. The same Mahavinu created Vinu from his left limb, Brahma, the first progenitor of beings, from his right limb and, from the space between his two eyebrows, Samhu, the divine masculine manifested halo. Commentary by Srila Jiva Goswami. What did the Lord do then? That is described in this verse. Then the form of Vinu and the other forms of the Lord entered the material universes. In each universe they assumed different roles such as protector, maintainer, and controller. In this way the Lord enters each universe. The word Prajapati here refers to the incarnation of Hiranyagarbha. It does not refer to the four-faced Brahma. That Prajapati creates the different Avaranagata demigods. Vinu is engaged in the work of maintaining and protecting, and Siva is engaged in the work of destruction. The word Kirkadesat means from between the eyebrows. The places of these are the coverings of water. 16. The function of Samhu in relation to Jivas is that this universe enshrining the mundane egotistic principle has originated from Samhu. Commentary by Srila Jiva Goswami. In this half-verse the author describes another duty performed by Siva. This half-verse means, this universe enshrining the mundane egotistic principle has originated from Samhu. This is because Lord Siva is the predominating deity of false ego. 17. Thereupon the same great personal Godhead, assuming the threefold forms of Vinu, Prajapati, and Samhu, entering into the mundane universe, plays the pastimes of preservation, creation, and destruction of this world. This pastime is contained in the mundane world. Hence, it being perverted, the Supreme Lord, identical with Mahavinu, prefers to consort with the goddess Yoganidra, the constituent of his own spiritual, cit, potency full of the ecstatic trance of eternal bliss appertaining to his own divine personality. Commentary by Srila Jiva Goswami. In this verse the author describes the Lord's pastimes when he assumes these different forms and enters the material universes. Here with word te means with these three deities, beginning with Lord Vinu, who enter each material universe, and Vase means with forms. In this way the Lord enjoys pastimes in the material universes. That is the meaning. The word Bhagavati here means an expansion of the previously described goddess Mahayoganidra. Srir Eva Sangata means because she is full of the ecstatic trance of eternal bliss, all the divine goddesses are included within her. In this way she includes a partial expansion of goddess Sri, the goddess of fortune. That is the meaning. 18. When Vinu lying in the ocean of milk wills to create this universe, a golden lotus springs from his navel pit. The golden lotus with its stem is the abode of Brahma, representing Brahmaloka or Satyaloka. Commentary by Srila Jiva Goswami. Here with word nalam means endowed with a stem. The abode, Loka, here is called Himanalanam, golden lotus, is used because that lotus is the birthplace and home of the demigod Brahma. That is the meaning. 19. Before their conglomeration the primary elements in their nascent state remained originally separate entities. Non-application of the conglomerating process is the cause of their separate existence. Divine Mahavinu, primal Godhead, through association with his own spiritual, cit, potency, moved Maya, and by the application of the conglomerating principle created those different entities in their state of cooperation. And after that he himself consorted with Yoganidra by way of his eternal dalliance with his spiritual, cit, potency. Commentary by Srila Jiva Goswami. With the purpose of awakening the countless spirit souls, Lord Karanarnavase I Vinu engages in the acts of creation described in the third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Those acts are also described in these two verses. Here the words Mayaya means with his own potency, and the words Parasparam Tatvana Yojayan mean he engaged them without himself becoming active. The word Yoganidram is used because the Lord accepted her. 20 By conglomerating all those separate entities he manifested the innumerable mundane universes and himself entered into the inmost recess of every extended conglomerate, Vigraha. At that time those Jivas who had lain dormant during the cataclysm were awakened. Commentary by Srila Jiva Goswami. This is the third verse in this passage. The word Yojayatva means conglomerating them. Then he was situated in sleep. That is the meaning. The word Goham refers to his universal form. The word Pratibudhayat means he awakened them from the sleep that begun with the destruction of the universe. 21 The same Jiva is eternal and is for eternity and without a beginning, joined to the Supreme Lord by the tie of an eternal kinship. He is transcendental spiritual potency. Commentary by Srila Jiva Goswami. In this verse the author describes the relationship between the individual spirit soul and the Supreme Lord. The word Nitya here means for all time, without either beginning or end. This means that as the sun and the sunlight have an eternal relationship, so the Supreme Lord and the individual spirit soul also have an eternal relationship. In Sri Narada Pankaratra it is said, the individual spirit soul is spiritual and conscious. It lives on the border between the spiritual and material worlds. It can leave that border, enter the material world, and become contaminated by the modes of nature. That is said to be the spirit soul. In the Bhagavad Gita, 15.7, Lord Krishna declares, the living entities in this conditioner world are my parts and parcels and they are eternal. The individual spirit soul is an impartial judge, a witness of both the original spiritual world and the reflection that is the material world. In that sense the individual soul is called Prakriti. This use of the word Prakriti is seen in these words spoken by Lord Krishna in Bhagavad Gita, 7.5. There is a superior energy of mine, which comprises the living entities. The eternal relationship between the Supreme Lord and the individual spirit souls is also seen in these words of Mundaka Upanishad, 3.11, and Svetasvatara Upanishad, 4.6. The Supreme Personality of Godhead and the individual spirit soul are like two friendly birds sitting on the same tree. 22. The divine lotus which springs from the navel pit of Venu is in every way related by the spiritual tie with all souls and is the origin of four-faced Brahma versed in the four Vedas. Commentary by Srila Jiva Goswami. Because he enters the cave that is the material universe, the Lord becomes the ruler of the individual spirit souls there, and because he is the supreme master and enjoyer, he approaches them. That is explained in this verse. As Hiranyagarbha Brahma, the universal form, the Supreme Lord becomes the entire universe. 23. On coming out of the lotus, Brahma, being guided by the divine potency, turned his mind to the act of creation under the impulse of previous impressions. But he could see nothing but darkness in every direction. Commentary by Srila Jiva Goswami. In this verse the author describes the activities of four-faced Brahma, the demigod. The meaning of the 1.5 verses here is clear. 24. Then the goddess of learning Sarasvati, the divine consort of the Supreme Lord, said thus to Brahma, who saw nothing but gloom in all directions, O Brahma, this mantra, viz., Klim Krishnaya Govindaya Gopi Hane Vallabhaya Svaha, will assuredly fulfill your heart's desire. Commentary by Srila Jiva Goswami. Because of his previous worship of the Lord, Brahma attained the Lord's mercy. That is explained in this verse. The meaning of the 1.5 verses here is clear. 25. O Brahma, do thou practice spiritual association by means of this mantra. Then all your desires will be fulfilled. Commentary by Srila Jiva Goswami. The Lord's order that Brahma perform austerities is also described in these words of Srimad Bhagavatam, 2.96. Brahmaji heard twice from nearby two syllables joined together. One of the syllables was taken from he 16th and the other from the 21st of the Sparsa alphabets, and both joined to become the wealth of the renounced order of life. 26. Brahma, being desirous of satisfying Govinda, practiced the cultural acts for Krishna in Goloka, Lord Svetadvipa, for a long time. His meditation ran thus: there exists a divine lotus of 1,000 petals, augmented by millions of filaments, in the transcendental land of Goloka. On its whirl, there exists a great divine throne on which is seated Sri Krishna, the form of eternal effulgence of transcendental bliss, playing on his divine flute resonant with the divine sound, with his lotus mouth. He is worshipped by his amorous milkmaids with their respective subjective portions and extensions, and also by his external energy, who stays outside, embodying all mundane qualities. Commentary by Srila Jiva Goswami. Desiring to obtain the power to create the material universe, Brahma chanted this mantra, offered prayers, and worshipped Lord Govinda, who stays in the transcendental abode of Gokula. That is explained in these 4 verses. Here the word Gunarupanya means consisting of the modes of goodness, passion, and ignorance, and Rupanya means having a form. That the external energy also worships Lord Krishna is described in these words of Srimad Bhagavatam. Goddess Maya is embarrassed, and worships the Supreme Lord from afar. In Srimad Bhagavatam it is also said, Goddess Maya always presents offerings to the Lord. The word Amsa here means by their associates, who surround them. 27 Then Gayatri, mother of the Vedas, being made manifest, i.e. imparted, by the divine sound of the flute of Sri Krishna, entered into the lotus mouth of Brahma, born from himself, through his 8 ear holes. The lotus-born Brahma, having received the Gayatri, sprung from the flute song of Sri Krishna, attained the status of the twice-born, having been initiated by the Supreme Primal Preceptor, Godhead himself. Commentary by Srila Jiva Goswami. In these 2 verses is described the second birth of Brahma. He was second born by spiritual initiation, by hearing the king of mantras. The word Trayimurti is used here because Gayatri is the mother of the Vedas. This is confirmed by the description in the 2nd verse. Here the word Gata means method, Mukhabjani Pravivisa means entered the 4 lotus mouths from the 8 ears. In this way Brahma was initiated by the original spiritual master, Adigurana, who is Lord Krishna himself. In this sentence Brahma is in the nominative. He is the subject of the sentence. 28 Enlightened by the recollection of that Gayatri, embodying the 3 Vedas, Brahma became acquainted with the expanse of the ocean of truth. Then he worshipped Sri Krishna, the essence of all Vedas, with this hymn. Commentary by Srila Jiva Goswami. This verse means enlightened by the Gayatri, which embodies the 3 Vedas, Brahma offered prayers. The rest of the verse is clear. 29 I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, the first progenitor who is tending the cows, yielding all desire, in abodes built with spiritual gems, surrounded by anilions of purpose trees, always served with great reverence and affection by hundreds of thousands of Laxmis or Gopis. Commentary by Srila Jiva Goswami. In this verse Brahma begins his prayers. Many mantras describe meditation on many sacred abodes. In this verse Brahma offers prayers to the Lord in his most important pastimes in his most important abode, Goloka. Here the word abhai means in all ways, primarily by walking in the forest and by walking among the cow barns, and palayantam means affectionately protecting. Sometimes the Lord enjoys pastimes in secluded places. These are described in the phrase beginning with the word Lakshmi. The word Lakshmi here means the beautiful gopis. In this way the verse is explained. 30 I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who is adept in playing on his flute, with blooming eyes like lotus petals, with head decked with peacock's feather, with the figure of beauty tinged with the hue of blue clouds, and his unique loveliness charming millions of cupids. Commentary by Srila Jiva Goswami. In this verse is a meditation on the pastimes of the Lord in the transcendental Sintamani abode known as Gokula, where there is no ordinary walking, and which will be further described in text 56. This verse is naturally joined to the following verse. Everything in this verse is clear. 31 I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, round whose neck is swinging a garland of flowers beautified with the moon locket, whose 2 hands are adorned with the flute and jeweled ornaments, who always revels in pastimes of love, whose graceful threefold bending form of Syamasundara is eternally manifest. Commentary by Srila Jiva Goswami. The word Keli means pastimes characterized by love and by joking, and Kala means expert in the art. His pastimes, vilasa, are like that. In the Amarakosa it is said, the words Drava, Kelly, and Parihasa mean joking. 32 I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, whose transcendental form is full of bliss, truth, substantiality, and is thus full of the most dazzling splendor. Each of the limbs of that transcendental figure possesses in himself the full-fledged functions of all the organs, and eternally sees, maintains, and manifests the infinite universes, both spiritual and mundane. Commentary by Srila Jiva Goswami. After describing the Lord's pastimes in the previous 2 verses, in the next 4 verses the author describes the Lord's inconceivable powers and glories. In this verse the author describes the powers and glories of the Lord's form. The Lord's hand has the power to see. His eyes have the power to protect. Each of his senses and limbs has all the powers of every other sense and limb. The Lord's senses are also described in these words of Bhagavad Gita, 13.14. Everywhere are his hands and legs, his eyes, heads, and faces, and he has ears everywhere. In this way the Supersoul exists, pervading everything. The word Jaganti means that the Lord personally employs his own senses and limbs in his various transcendental pastimes. The reason why the Lord's form is so wonderful and extraordinary is given in the phrase beginning with the word Ananda. 33 I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who is inaccessible to the Vedas, but obtainable by pure unalloyed devotion of the soul, who is without a second, who is not subject to decay, is without a beginning, whose form is endless, who is the beginning, and the eternal Purasa. Yet he is a person possessing the beauty of blooming youth. Commentary by Srila Jiva Goswami. In the 3 verses that begin here the description of the Lord's extraordinary power and glory continues. The word Advaitam means that as a king has no rival, so the Supreme Personality of Godhead has no, rival, Dvaita, anywhere in the world. In Srimad Bhagavatam, 3.212, Sri Uddhava explains, the Lord's pastimes were wonderful for everyone. The meaning of the word Asi Uttam is given by Sri Akrura in these words, Srimad Bhagavatam 10.387-8, indeed, today King Kamsa has shown me extreme mercy by sending me to see the lotus feet of Lord Hari, who has now appeared in this world. Simply by the effulgence of his toenails, many souls in the past have transcended the insurmountable darkness of material existence and achieved liberation. Those lotus feet are worshipped by Brahma, Shiva, and all the demigods, by the goddess of fortune, and also by the great sages and Vaisnavas. Sri Uddhava also explains, Srimad Bhagavatam 10.4762 the goddess of fortune herself, along with Lord Brahma and all the other demigods, who are masters of yogic perfection, can worship the lotus feet of Krishna only within her mind. But during the Rasa dance Lord Krishna placed his feet upon these gopis' breasts, and by embracing those feet the gopis gave up all distress. Sri Sukadeva Goswami also explains, Srimad Bhagavatam 10.28-14 and 17 the all-merciful Supreme Personality of Godhead Hari revealed to the cowherd men his abode, which is beyond material darkness. Nanda Maharaja and the other cowherd men felt the greatest happiness when they saw that transcendental abode. They were especially amazed to see Krishna himself there, surrounded by the personified Vedas, who were offering him prayers. The word Anadai means free from the 3 phases of time, which consist of beginning, middle, and end. It is described in these words of Srimad Bhagavatam, 11.24-27. Time merges into the Supreme Lord, present in the form of the omniscient Mahapurasa, the original activator of all living beings. Thus it is said that when the material universe is destroyed the Supreme Personality of Godhead remains an aloof witness. He is not destroyed. That is the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the seer of everything is confirmed by the Lord himself in these words, Srimad Bhagavatam 11.24-29 Thus I, the perfect seer of everything material and spiritual, have spoken this knowledge of Sankhya, which destroys the illusion of doubt by scientific analysis of creation and annihilation. The word Puranapurasam is explained by Brahma in this way, Srimad Bhagavatam 10.14-23 O Lord, you are the primeval Supreme Personality of Godhead. The people of Mathura also affirm, Krishna is the primeval supreme personality of Godhead colorfully decorated with garlands of forest flowers. The word Navayavanam is defined in these words of the Nirukti. Navayavana means even though one is the oldest, he is young like a fresh youth. In Srimad Bhagavatam, 10.4414, it is said, what austerities must the gopis have performed? With their eyes they always drink the nectar of Lord Krishna's form, which is the essence of loveliness and is not to be equaled or surpassed. That loveliness is the only abode of beauty, fame, and opulence. It is self-perfect, ever fresh, and extremely rare. In the 9th canto it is said, Srimad Bhagavatam 9.2465 Krishna's face is decorated with ornaments, such as earrings resembling sharks. His ears are beautiful. His cheeks brilliant, and his smiling attractive to everyone. Whoever sees Lord Krishna sees a festival. His face and body are fully satisfying for everyone to see, but the devotees are angry at the Creator for the disturbance caused by the momentary blinking of the eyes. In the 1st canto it is said, Srimad Bhagavatam 1.1626-29 in the Supreme Personality of Godhead reside 1. Truthfulness, 2. Cleanliness, 3. Intolerance of another's unhappiness, 4. Power to control anger, 5. Self-satisfaction, 6. Straightforwardness, 7. Steadiness of mind, 8. Control of the sense organs, 9. Responsibility, 10. Equality, 11. Tolerance, 12. Equanimity, 13. Faithfulness, 14. Knowledge, 15. Absence of sense enjoyment, 16. Leadership, 17. Chivalry, 18. Influence, 19. The power to make everything possible, 20. The discharge of proper duty, 21. Complete independence, 22. Dexterity, 23. Fullness of all beauty, 24. Serenity, 25. Kind-heartedness, 26. Ingenuity, 27. Gentility, 28. Magnanimity, 29. Determination, 30. Perfection in all knowledge, 31. Proper execution, 32. Possession of all objects of enjoyment, 33. Joyfulness, 34. Immovability, 35. Fidelity, 36. Fame, 37. Worship, 38. Pridelessness, 39. Being, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, 40. Eternity. And many other transcendental qualities which are eternally present and never to be separated from Him. The following meditation on Lord Krishna is found in the Gopalatapani Upanishad. Splendid like a monsoon cloud, the youthful Gopa Krishna sits under a Kalpavarkasa tree. Here the word Tarana, like Navayavana, means with a great opulence of youthfulness. The words Vidi Suduralabham are explained in these words of Srimad Bhagavatam's 10th canto, the Vedas search for the pathway to Lord Mukunda's feet. The phrase Adurlabham Atmabhaktau is explained by the Supreme Personality of Godhead Himself in these words of Srimad Bhagavatam, 11.1421 being very dear to the devotees and sadhus, I am attained through unflinching faith and devotional service. In Srimad Bhagavatam, 10.145, it is said, O Almighty Lord, in the past many yogis in this world achieved the platform of devotional service by offering all their endeavors unto you and faithfully carrying out their prescribed duties. Through such devotional service, perfected by the processes of hearing and chanting about you, they came to understand you, O Infallible One, and could easily surrender to you and achieve your supreme abode. Text 34 I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, only the tip of the toe of whose lotus feet is approached by the yogis who aspire after the transcendental and betake themselves to pranayama by drilling the respiration, or by the jhanis who try to find out the non-differentiated Brahman by the process of elimination of the mundane, extending over thousands of millions of years. Commentary by Srila Jiva Goswami. Here the word Prapadasimni means the tip of the lotus feet. Sri Narada explains, Srimad Bhagavatam 10.692. It is astounding that Lord Sri Krishna, who is one without a second, expanded himself in 16,000 similar forms to marry 16,000 queens in their respective homes. In the Gopaladapani Upanishad it is said, Lord Krishna is the one all-powerful, worshipable, all-pervading Supreme Personality of Godhead. In the Gopaladapani Upanishad it is also said, although he is one, Lord Krishna expands in many forms. The author of Brahma Samhita therefore concludes, Lord Krishna has inconceivable powers, Avasinthyatav. This is also confirmed by the following words of Srimad Bhagavatam's third canto, the Supreme Personality of Godhead has many thousands of inconceivable potencies. In both the Skanda Purana and the Mahabharata, Bhisma Parva, 5.28, it is said, it is also said in Vedanta Satra, 2.127. The statements of scripture are the root of real knowledge. In the commentary on this verse it is said, jewels, mantras, and strong medicines have inconceivable powers. Text 35. He is an undifferent latent entity as there is no distinction between potency and the possessor thereof. In his work of creation of millions of worlds, his potency remains inseparable. All the universes exist in him and he is present in his fullness in every one of the atoms that are scattered throughout the universe, at one and the same time. Such is the primeval Lord whom I adore. Commentary by Srila Jiva Goswami in Srimad Bhagavatam, 10.1346, it is said, then, while Lord Brahma looked on, all the calves and the boys tending them immediately appeared to have complexions the color of bluish rain clouds and to be dressed in yellow silken garments. These words describe the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Master of all the universes, assuming the forms of the cowherd boys. The word Jagadandakaya is explained in these words of Srimad Bhagavatam, 10.913. The Supreme Personality of Godhead has no beginning and no end, no exterior and no interior, no front and no rear. In other words, he is all-pervading. In the Sruti Sastra, Katha Upanishad January 2, 20, it is said, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is smaller than the smallest and greater than the greatest. In the Gopaladapani Upanishad it is said, the Supreme Personality of Godhead has entered all living entities. The cowherd boy Krishna is the super-soul hidden in all living beings. Text 36. Leaders adore the same Govinda, the primeval Lord, in whose praise men, who are imbued with devotion, sing the mantra stiktas told by the Vedas, by gaining their appropriate beauty, greatness, thrones, conveyances, and ornaments. Commentary by Srila Jiva Goswami. How merciful must the Supreme Personality of Godhead be to his sincere devotees? That is explained in this verse. The scriptures say that as the cowherd boys attains virtues, character, age, pastimes, and appearance like those of Lord Krishna, and as they attained eternal association with Lord Krishna, so they who somehow or other meditate on Lord Krishna also attain the eternal association with Lord Krishna. This is described in the following statement of Srimad Bhagavatam, 11.548. Inimical kings like Sisupala, Pandrika, and Salva were always thinking about Lord Krishna. Even while they were lying down, sitting, or engaging in other activities, they previously meditated on the bodily movements of the Lord, his sporting pastimes, his loving glances upon his devotees, and other attractive features displayed by the Lord. Being thus always absorbed in Krishna, they achieved spiritual liberation in the Lord's own abode. What then can be said of the benedictions offered to those who constantly fix their minds on Lord Krishna in a favorable, loving mood? Text 37. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, residing in his own realm, Goloka, with Radha, resembling his own spiritual figure, the embodiment of the ecstatic potency possessed of the 64 artistic activities, in the company of her confidants, Sakhis, embodiments of the extensions of her bodily form, permeated and vitalized by his ever-blissful spiritual rasa. Commentary by Srila Jiva Goswami. What then may be said of the gopis, who are so dear to the Lord? These most exalted goddesses reside in that realm of Lord Krishna. That is described in this verse. Here the word Anandasinmaya Rasa means the splendid Ajay Valarasa, which contains the most intense spiritual love, and pratibhavatabhya means they who worship the Lord in that ajj valorasa. The use of the prefix prati means that of all the dear associates of the Lord who reside in the realm of Goloka, the gopis are the most exalted. The reason for this is given in the word kalabha, which means they whose forms are manifestations of the Lord's ladani sakti, pleasure potency. This is shown by the use of the word prati. The word Nijarapatata means that the gopis are the wives of Lord Krishna. However, it is not in the Lord's manifest, prakata, pastimes that the gopis are the wives of Lord Krishna. The most exalted goddesses of fortune are the wives of Lord Krishna alone. They cannot be the wives of anyone else. However, in the Lord's manifested, prakata, pastimes in the material world, by the power of the Maya potency, the gopis may seem to be the wives of others, wives who nevertheless intently yearn to attain Lord Krishna. The words Yaiva imply that although in the Lord's manifested, prakata, pastimes in the material world the gopis act like the wives of others, in the Lord's unmanifest, aparakata, pastimes in the realm of Goloka, Golok, the gopis manifest their original pastimes, Nijarapatata Nivasati. Here the word Nivasati means is manifested. This is explained in the Gautamiya Tantra, where in the description of the Lord unmanifest, aprakata, eternal pastimes and features it is said, after many births they became perfect. They became gopis who have Lord Krishna as their husband. The phrase Goloka Eva refers to the place where these pastimes are manifested. These pastimes are not manifested in any other place. Text 38 I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who is Syamasundara, Krishna himself with inconceivable innumerable attributes, whom the pure devotees see in their heart of hearts with the eye of devotion tinged with the salve of love. Commentary by Srila Jiva Goswami. Although he stays in the realm of Goloka, Lord Krishna may nevertheless be seen by eyes anointed with the salve of love. That is described in this verse. The word Asantyagunas Varapam means that the Lord is seen by eyes tinged with the salve of love. Text 39 I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who manifested himself personally as Krishna and the different avataras in the world in the forms of Rama, Nrsimha, Vamana, etc., as his subjective portions. Commentary by Srila Jiva Goswami. Sometimes Lord Krishna manifests himself as one of his incarnations in the material world. That is described in this verse. Here the word Ya refers to Lord Krishna, the original Supreme Personality of Godhead. Kalanayamina means by the manifestation of his potencies, Ramadai Murtisutasthan means manifesting these various forms, Nanavataramikaros means he personally descends to the material world, and Govindarntam Ahabhajamai means I worship the Lord who enjoys pastimes in this way. In Srimad Bhagavatam, 10.240, it is said, O Supreme Controller, your Lordship previously accepted incarnations as a fish, a horse, a tortoise, Narasitanhadava, a boar, a swan, Lord Ramakandra, Parasurama, and, among the demigods, Vamanadeva, to protect the entire world by your mercy. Now please protect us again by your mercy by diminishing the disturbances in this world. O Krishna, best of the Adus, we respectfully offer our obeisances unto you. Text 40 I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, whose effulgence is the source of the non-differentiated Brahman mentioned in the Upanishads, being differentiated from the infinity of glories of the mundane universe appears as the indivisible, infinite, limitless, truth. Commentary by Srila Jiva Goswami. After describing the Lord's incarnations, in the verse the author describes the Lord's original form. Although Lord Govinda and the impersonal Brahman are the same Godhead, when he manifests his qualities he is Govinda, and when he does not manifest his qualities, he is the impersonal Brahman. His first feature, that of Govinda, is situated within the circle of light that is Brahman. That Lord Govinda is the source of the impersonal Brahman is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita, 14.27, where the Lord affirms, I am the basis of the impersonal Brahman. In Srimad Bhagavatam, 11.1637, the Lord declares, Srila Sridhara Swami comments on this verse, Lord Krishna is also the impersonal Brahman. In Srimad Bhagavatam, 8.2438, Lord Matsyadeva affirms, "You will be thoroughly advised and favored by me, and because of your inquiries, everything about my glories, which are known as Paran Brahma, will be manifest within your heart. Thus you will know everything about me." In Srimad Bhagavatam, 4.910, Dhruva Maharaja declares, "My Lord, the transcendental bliss derived from meditating upon your lotus feet or hearing about your glories from pure devotees is so unlimited that it is far beyond the stage of Brahmananda, wherein one thinks oneself merged in the impersonal Brahman as one with the Supreme. Since Brahmananda is also defeated by the transcendental bliss derived from devotional service, then what to speak of the temporary blissfulness of elevating oneself to the heavenly planets, which is ended by the separating sword of time. Although one may be elevated to the heavenly planets, he falls down in due course of time. Even elevated transcendentalists are attracted to the qualities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is described in these words of Srimad Bhagavatam, 1.710. All different varieties of Atmaramas, those who take pleasure in the Atma, or spirit self, especially those established on the path of self-realization, though freed from all kinds of material bondage, desire to render unalloyed devotional service unto the personality of Godhead. This means that the Lord possesses transcendental qualities, and therefore can attract everyone, including liberated souls. If one desires a more detailed explanation of this topic, it may be seen in the Sri Bhagavata Sandarbhas. What is the need of an elaborate explanation in this situation? Text 41. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who is the absolute substantive principle, being the ultimate entity in the form of the support of all existence, whose external potency embodies the threefold mundane qualities, viz., sattva, raja, and tama, and diffuses the Vedic knowledge regarding the mundane world. Commentary by Srila Jiva Goswami. After thus describing the glories of the Lord's form, in the next two verses the author describes the externally manifested glories of the Lord. Maya is the external potency of the Lord. She does not have direct contact with the Lord. The material world is made of mixtures of the modes of goodness, passion, and ignorance. When the mode of goodness is pure and not mixed with the other modes, then the spiritual potency is manifested. This is described in the following words of the Vinu Purana: "May the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the purest of the pure, and in whom the material modes of goodness, passion, and ignorance do not stay, be pleased with me." This topic is also explained in more detail in the Sri Bhagavata Sandarbhas. Text 42. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, whose glory ever triumphantly dominates the mundane world by the activity of his own pastimes, being reflected in the mind of recollecting souls as the transcendental entity of ever blissful cognitive rasa. Commentary by Srila Jiva Goswami. The Lord's pleasing charm is described in this verse. Here the word Ananda Sinmaya Rasa means the loving pastimes known as Ajay Valarasa, and Atmataya means with embraces. These completely charming pastimes are reflected, pratifalan, in the minds, manasu, of the living entities, praninam. In the 5 chapters that comprise Srimad Bhagavatam's description of the Rasa dance, it is said, the gopis' eyes were fixed on Lord Krishna. There it is also said, Srimad Bhagavatam 10.322, Lord Krishna was the most charming of Kamadevas. As he enters the universe, so also Lord Krishna enters the circle of these transcendental amorous pastimes. Text 43. Lowest of all is located Devi Dhamma, the mundane world. Next above it is Mahizadhamma, the abode of Mahia. Above Mahizadhamma is placed Haridhamma, the abode of Hari, and above them all is located Krishna's own realm named Goloka. I adore the primeval Lord Govinda, who has allotted their respective authorities to the rulers of those graded realms. Commentary by Srila Jiva Goswami. In this verse the author describes first the material world and then Lord Krishna's transcendental abode. In the word Devi Mahisa Haridhamma the abodes are given in reverse order. The sequence here starts at the bottom and then proceeds higher and higher. The Haridhamma here is not different from the realm of Goloka. Goloka is the highest of all the abodes. Goloka is not different from the abode of Vrindavana on the earth. This is described in the following words, O hero, on that Goloka planet stay Lord Krishna and the Surabhi cows. The same planet described in the words Goloka eva Nivasati is also manifested on the earth as the land of Vrindavana. There the Supreme Personality of Godhead enjoys his eternal pastimes. That is the conclusion of the scriptures. In the Adi Varaha Purana it is said, the 12th forest is Vrindavana, where Lord Krishna is the supreme ruler. That forest is protected by Vrindadevi and served by Brahma, Shiva, and all the demigods. In the Adi Varaha Purana it is also said, Vrindavana destroys all sins. There Lord Krishna enjoys pastimes with the gopis. There Lord Krishna enjoys pastimes with the cowherd boys day after day. There he enjoys transcendental pastimes eternally. In the Gautamiya Tantra, Sri Narada asks, what are the 32 forests of Vrindavana? I wish to hear of them. O Lord, if you think I am worthy to hear, please tell me of them. To this question Lord Krishna gave the following reply, this place named Vrindavana is my transcendental abode. When they die, the humans, cows, animals, birds, insects, and worms who live here will go to my eternal abode. The gopis who live here are eternally devoted to my service. The 40 miles of Vrindavana forest is my own transcendental form. The Yamuna river there flows with nectar. It is the same as the river named Susumna. Here the saints and demigods reside in subtle forms. I, who am the personification of all the demigods, never leave this forest. Millennium after millennium, I appear and disappear. This beautiful and splendid abode cannot be seen with material eyes. In this way the Varaha Purana and other scriptures describe the eternal Kadamba trees and the other eternal residents of this realm of Vrindavana. The realm of Goloka looks different from the Vrindavana that we are able to see. When we are able to see the true nature of Vrindavana, then Lord Sri Krishna and his eternal associates will become visible and appear before us. Goloka is said to be an incarnation of Sri Krishna. It is the form of certain specific rasas, mellows of love. It is the abode of certain wonderful pastimes, such as the gopis' pastimes with their paramour Krishna. All this is described or hinted in the various kalpas, tantras, yamalas, samhitas, pavicharitras, and other scriptures. In Srimad Bhagavatam, 10.9048, it is said, Lord Sri Krishna is he who is known as Jananivasa, the ultimate resort of all living entities, and who is known as Devakinandana or Yasodanandana, the son of Devaki and Yasoda. He is the guide of the Yadu dynasty, and with his mighty arms he kills everything inauspicious, as well as every man who is impious. By his presence he destroys all things inauspicious for all living entities, moving and inert. His blissful smiling face always increases the lusty desires of the gopis of Vrindavana. May he be all glorious and happy. In the Padma Purana, Nirvanakanda, Sri Vyasa explains, he said, please look. I will show you my transcendental form, which is hidden from the Vedas. O king, then I saw a boy dark like a monsoon cloud, a boy surrounded by many gopis and joking with many gopas. Although the word Kanya here certainly refers to the nature and qualities of young girls, the girls here are unlike the ordinary girls of the material world. In the Gautamiya Tantra, 4th chapter, in the passage beginning with the words Atha Vrindavanandhye, now one should meditate on Vrindavana, the following meditation on Vrindavana is given, that abode is decorated with hundreds of girls beautiful like demi-goddesses in Svargaloka, with many gopas and calves, and with many forest groves. In that abode the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Master of the three worlds, is worshipped by many thousands of lotus-petal-eyed gopis blossoming with love. The spiritual activity one should adopt to directly see Lord Krishna is described in these words, with full concentration one should chant this Krishna mantra day and night. Then one will see the cowherd boy form of Lord Krishna. Of this there is no doubt. In another passage it is said, one who is wise will reside in Vrindavana until he directly sees Lord Krishna. In the Trailokya Samahana Tantra, in the description of the 18-syllable mantra, it is said, With full concentration one should chant this Krishna mantra day and night. Then one will see the cowherd boy form of Lord Krishna. Of this there is no doubt. In the Gopaladapani Upanishad, Brahma declares, I continually glorified the Lord and meditated upon him for millions of years, and at last I was able to understand the transcendental form of the Lord as Sri Krishna, in the dress of a cowherd boy. It is said in the scriptures that the forms of Lord Kesarodakazayivinu and the other incarnations of the Lord are all present in the transcendental form of Lord Krishna. What is the need for a more elaborate explanation here? We have already discussed this topic in depth in the Krishna Sandarbha. Text 44. The external potency Maya, who is of the nature of the shadow of the CIT potency, is worshipped by all people as Durga, the creating, preserving, and destroying agency of this mundane world. I adore the primeval Lord Govinda, in accordance with whose will Durga conducts herself. Commentary by Srila Jiva Goswami. The abodes of Devi, Mahisa, and Lord Hari were described in the previous verse. Now, in the next 5 verses, it will be shown that Lord Krishna is the shelter of all of these abodes. In the Sruti Sastra it is said, O Supreme Personality of Godhead, you are supremely powerful and independent. With unblinking eyes, Durga and the demigods attentively place offerings before you. Text 45. Just as milk is transformed into curd by the action of acids, but yet the effect curd is neither same as, nor different from, its cause, viz., milk, so I'll adore the primeval Lord Govinda, of whom the state of Samhu is a transformation for the performance of the work of destruction. Commentary by Srila Jiva Goswami. In this verse Mahasa, the next in this sequence, is described. Here an example of cause and effect is given. Here the cause remains unchanged after creating the effect. In this sense the cause is like a Sintamani jewel, which also remains unchanged after creating an effect. The Lord remains thus unchanged because his potencies are inconceivable. In the Sruti Sastra it is said, in the beginning only Lord Narayana, the Supreme Person, existed. Neither Brahma nor Shiva existed then. Lord Narayana began to meditate, and from his meditation the material universe was manifested. From his meditation Brahma, Shiva, Indra, Varuna, and Agni were born. It is also said in the scriptures, Lord Hari is the blissful Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is the cause of creation and destruction. He employs Brahma to create the universe and Shiva to destroy it. He creates Lord Shiva by touching the modes of material nature. In Srimad Bhagavatam's 10th canto is said, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, is always uncontaminated by the modes of material nature, for he is beyond the material manifestation. On the other hand, powerful Shiva carries the marks of the 3 modes of material nature. In the scriptures it is also said, Shiva is touched by the modes of material nature. In some places in the scriptures it is seen that Shiva is not different from Lord Vishnu. For this reason it may be concluded that they are not different. This is described in the following words of the Arjiveda Sira, Athanidya Narayano Brahma Ca Narayana Shiva Ca Narayana Sakra Ca Narayana Kala Ca Narayana Diga Ca Narayana Adha Ca Narayana Erdvarn Ca Narayana Antarbahi Ca Narayana. Narayana Evadatun Sarvatun Jadath Jagat Yarn Jagat. Narayana is eternal. Narayana is Brahma. Narayana is Shiva. Narayana is Indra. Narayana is time. Narayana is the directions. Narayana is below. Narayana is above. Narayana is within. Narayana is without. Narayana is the entire created material universe. Their relationship is described by Brahma in these words, Srimad Bhagavatam, 2.632. By his will, I create, Lord Shiva destroys, and he himself, in his eternal form as the personality of Godhead, maintains everything. He is the powerful controller of these 3 energies. Text 46. The light of one candle being communicated to other candles, although it burns separately in them, is the same in its quality. I adore the primeval Lord Govinda who exhibits himself equally in the same mobile manner in his various manifestations. Commentary by Srila Jiva Goswami. In this verse Lord Hari, the next in the sequence, is described. Now that the Guna-avatara Siva has been described, the Guna-avatara Vinu is described in this verse. The reason the Guna-avataras have the same powers as the Lord himself is given in these words, so they may manifest the material world. The Guna-avataras are given powers like those of the Supreme Lord. From a part of Lord Govinda is manifested Lord Karanarnavasai Vinu. From him is manifested Lord Garbhodakasayi Vinu. From Garbhodakasayi Vinu is manifested the Lord Vinu, who is a Guna-avatara. As the light of one candle being communicated to other candles, although it burns separately in them, is the same in its quality, so the different forms of the Lord are all the same Supreme Personality of Godhead. In this example Lord Siva, because he is the controller of the mode of ignorance, is compared to the soot that is the byproduct of these candles. Therefore he is not equal to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as are the forms of Lord Vinu. In the following verses the various expansions of Lord Vinu will be described. Text 47. I adore the primeval Lord Govinda, who assumes his own great subjective form, who bears the name of Sesa, replete with the all-accommodating potency, and reposing in the causal ocean with the infinity of the world in the pores of his hair, enjoys creative sleep, Yoganidra. Commentary by Srila Jiva Goswami. In this verse Lord Karanarnavasai Vinu is described. Countless material universes are manifested from the pores of his body. The word sa in sa Roma is an example of arsa usage. The Adharasakti here is the Lord's own form of Sesa. Text 48. Brahma and other lords of the mundane worlds, appearing from the pores of hair of Mahavinu, remain alive as long as the duration of one exhalation of the latter, Mahavinu. I adore the primeval Lord Govinda, of whose subjective personality Mahavinu is the portion of a portion. Commentary by Srila Jiva Goswami. Brahma and the other demigods assist Lord Vinu, the protector of all the universes. In that sense they are avataras, non-different from the Lord. The word Jagadandana refers to the deities headed by Lord Vinu. The word Jivanti means that they have specific powers and responsibilities in the management of the universe. Text 49. I adore the primeval Lord Govinda, from whom the separated subjective portion Brahma receives his power for the regulation of the mundane world, just as the sun manifests some portion of his own light in all the effulgent gems that bear the names of Siaryakanta, etc. Commentary by Srila Jiva Goswami. After thus revealing the deities who are the shelters of the various abodes beginning with Devi Dhamma, the author explains that Brahma is an individual spirit soul, Jiva, by nature different from the Supreme Lord. Here the word Basvan means shining like the sun, Najisu means in his own eternal parts, and Asmasakalsu means manifests some portion of his own light in all the effulgent gems that bear the names of Stiryaktanta, etc. The word API means as a great fire employs a spark to set something else on fire, so the Supreme Lord manifests a certain portion of his own powers in a certain chosen individual soul, Jiva. In this way, given a certain portion of the Supreme Lord's power, the demigod Brahma is able to create the material universe. Although goddess Maya, who is also known as Durga, is a maidservant of Lord Karanarnavasai Vinu and dutifully carries out his commands, and although Brahma, Vinu, and others are avataras of Lord Garbhodakasayi Vinu, nevertheless Lord Govinda is the final shelter of all, and all others take shelter of him. This will be further explained later in this book. Text 50. I adore the primeval Lord Govinda, whose lotus feet are always held by Gainsa upon the pair of tumuli protruding from his elephant head in order to obtain power for his function of destroying all the obstacles on the path of progress of the three worlds. Commentary by Srila Jiva Goswami. In order to become free of all obstacles, at the beginning of endeavors the people offer prayers to Gainsa. Concerned that this should be done, the author speaks this verse. This is confirmed by the following words of Lord Kapiladeva: placing the water from Gainsa's feet on his own head, Siva has become auspicious. Text 51. The three worlds are composed of the 9 elements, viz., fire, earth, ether, water, air, direction, time, soul and mind. I adore the primeval Lord Govinda, from whom they originate, in whom they exist, and into whom they enter at the time of the universal cataclysm. Commentary by Srila Jiva Goswami. The meaning of this verse is clear. Text 52. The sun, who is the king of all the planets, full of infinite effulgence, the image of the good soul, is the eye of this world. I adore the primeval Lord Govinda, in pursuance of whose order the sun performs his journey mounting the wheel of time. Commentary by Srila Jiva Goswami. Here someone may protest, is it not so that many sages say the sun god is in truth the Supreme Lord? This verse is spoken in reply to that claim. Here the word kaksa means he who manifests. In the Bhagavad Gita, 15.12, Lord Krishna declares, the splendor of the sun, which dissipates the darkness of the whole world, comes from me. And the splendor of the moon and the splendor of fire are also from me. In the Sruti Sastra it is said, out of fear of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the wind blows. Out of fear of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the sun rises. The sun is here called the eye of this world because it is the eye of the Lord's universal form, Viratripa. Text 53. I adore the primeval Lord Govinda, by whose conferred power are maintained the manifested potencies, that are found to exist, of all virtues, all vices, the Vedas, the penances, and all jivas, from Brahma to the meanest insect. Commentary by Srila Jiva Goswami. The gist of this verse is, what more need be said of the Lord's glories? In Bhagavad Gita Lord Krishna declares, Lam, the source of all spiritual and material worlds. Everything emanates from me. Text 54. I adore the primeval Lord Govinda, who burns up to their roots all fruitive activities of those who are imbued with devotion and impartially ordains for each the due enjoyment of the fruits of one's activities, of all those who walk in the path of work, in accordance with the chain of their previously performed works, no less in the case of the tiny insect that bears the name of Indragapa than in that of Indra, king of the Devas. Commentary by Srila Jiva Goswami. The Supreme Personality of Godhead administers the law of karma impartially for all spirit souls. He may be compared to the rain who falls equally everywhere. Even so, the Lord especially favors his devotees. This is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, 9.29, where Lord Krishna declares, "Lnv no one, nor am I partial to anyone. I am equal to all. But whoever renders service unto me in devotion is a friend, is in me, and I am also a friend to him." In the Bhagavad Gita, 9.22, Lord Krishna again declares, "But those who always worship me with exclusive devotion, meditating on my transcendental form, to them I carry what they lack, and I preserve what they have." Text 35. Leaders adore the primeval Lord Govinda, the meditators of whom, by meditating upon him under the sway of wrath, amorous passion, natural friendly love, fear, parental affection, delusion, reverence, and willing service, attain to bodily forms befitting the nature of their contemplation. Commentary by Srila Jiva Goswami. To whomever hates him, the Supreme Personality of Godhead gives a result not attainable by others. What, then, may be said of the result the Lord gives to they who meditate on him under the sway of amorous passion, or in the other ways mentioned here? From this one may come to ask this rhetorical question, who is a better object of worship than Lord Krishna? The conclusion, then, is, one should worship Lord Krishna. That is explained in this verse. Here the word Sahajapranaya means friendship, Vatsalya means the love felt by parents and other superiors, Moha means forgetting everything, which means forgetting that Krishna is the Supreme Lord, Guru Gaurava means thinking of the Lord as one's parent or other superior, and Savayabhave means service, or in other words the thought, I should serve Lord Krishna. The word Tajya Sadrasim means that they who approach the Lord with anger think the Lord's form is material. However, that kind of meditation is not appropriate for they who approach the Lord in the other, friendly ways. These devotees are situated in different stages of perceiving the Lord's transcendental features and are situated in different levels of being exalted with spiritual virtues. For example, Lord Krishna told Maharaja Vasudeva, Srimad Bhagavatam 10.341, I found no one else as highly elevated as you in simplicity and other qualities of good character. In the Vedanta Sutra it is said, the devotees are free of all worldly activities. Sri Narada Muni explains, Srimad Bhagavatam 1.628 I was awarded a transcendental body befitting an associate of the personality of Godhead. In this way it is said that one becomes like the Lord in all respects. In Srimad Bhagavatam 11.548, it is said, inimical kings like Sisupala, Pandrika, and Salva were always thinking about Lord Krishna. Even while they were lying down, sitting, or engaging in other activities, they enviously meditation upon the bodily movements of the Lord, his sporting pastimes, his loving glances upon his devotees, and other attractive features displayed by the Lord. Being thus absorbed in Krishna, they achieved spiritual liberation in the Lord's own abode. What then can be said of the benedictions offered to those who constantly fix their minds on Lord Krishna in a favorable, loving mood? In this way they who think of the Lord in a favorable, loving mood attain different kinds of love for him. In this way it is seen that the Lord's form and pastimes are the same in either the material world or in the spiritual world of Goloka. That Lord Krishna's form is the same in either the spiritual or material world is confirmed by these words of Srimad Bhagavatam 10.2817 Nanda Maharaja and the other cowherd men felt the greatest happiness when they saw that transcendental abode. They were especially amazed to see Krishna himself there, surrounded by the personified Vedas, who were offering him prayers. Text 56 I worship that transcendental seat, known as Svetadvipa, where as loving consorts the Lakshmis in their unalloyed spiritual essence practice the amorous service of the Supreme Lord Krishna as their only lover, where every tree is a transcendental purpose tree, where the soil is the purpose gem, all water is nectar, every word is a song, every gate is a dance, the flute is the favorite attendant, effulgence is full of transcendental bliss and the supreme spiritual entities are all enjoyable and tasty, where numberless milk cows always emit transcendental oceans of milk, where there is eternal existence of transcendental time, who is ever present and without past or future and hence is not subject to the quality of passing away even for the space of half a moment. That realm is known as Goloka only to a very few self-realized souls in this world. Commentary by Srila Jiva Goswami. After having described the Supreme Personality of Godhead as the highest object of worship, in these two verses the author describes the Lord's transcendental abode. Here the word Sriya means the beautiful girls of Braja, who are glorified in many mantras and meditations. Of these limitless gopis there is but one lover, Kanta. In the way are revealed the glories of the Lord's personal associates as well as the glories of Lord Krishna, who is more exalted than all other persons, including his own form as the Supreme Lord Narayana. The words Kalpataravodruma refer to certain trees famous for granting all desires. The phrase Bhimi Sintamani Ganamayi means that the land there also grants all desires. If this so, how much more must the Kaustubha jewels and other jewels there fulfill all desires? The words Toyam Amritam means that the water there tastes like nectar. How sweet, then, must the nectar there taste? The words Varhasi Priyasakya mean that the sound of Lord Krishna's flute is supremely pleasing to the ear. What more need be said? Everything there is spiritual and full of bliss, Siddhanandam. The word Jyoti means splendid like the sun, moon, and other luminaries. In the Gautamiya Tantra the land of Vrindavana is described in these words, Vrindavana is glorious like a rising moon or a rising Sunday. Because it is like an eternally full moon, Goloka is always supremely splendid and glorious. The word Asvadhyam means tasty because it is a manifestation of the Lord's spiritual potency. The spiritual nature of the Lord's abode is described in these words, Srimad Bhagavatam 10.2814 The all-merciful Supreme Personality of Godhead Hari revealed to the cowherd men his abode, which is beyond material darkness. The words Sravati Surabhibhya mean that when they hear the sound of Lord Krishna's flute, the Surabhi cows emit oceans of milk. The phrase Vrajati Nahai means that the residents of Goloka are not aware of time. This means that in Goloka time has neither faults nor disadvantages. This is described in the following words of Srimad Bhagavatam 2.910 In the personal abode of the Lord there is no predominance of the influence of time. The word Sveta means pure, and Dvipam means island. In the Gopaladapani Upanishad it is said, as a lotus flower stands in the water, so the land of Vrindavana stands on this earth. The phrase beginning with the word Kasatai is described in these words of the Harivamsa. Even after we had asked grandfather Brahma about it, we still could not understand the Lord's abode of Goloka. Text 57. On hearing these hymns containing the essence of the truth, the Supreme Lord Krishna said to Brahma, Brahma, if you experience the inclination to create offspring by being endowed with the real knowledge of the glory of Godhead, listen, my beloved, from me to this science set forth in the following 5 slokas. Commentary by Srila Jiva Goswami. After speaking these descriptions, the author proceeds in these 1.5 verses to describe the way one may attain the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Everything in these verses is clear. Text 58. When the pure spiritual experience is excited by means of cognition and service, bhakti, super excellent unalloyed devotion characterized by love for Godhead is awakened towards Krishna, the beloved of all souls. Commentary by Srila Jiva Goswami. In these 5 verses the author describes the nature of the Supreme Lord's mercy. In Srimad Bhagavatam, 11.195, Lord Krishna declares, advancing by clear realization of Vedic knowledge, you should worship me in the mood of loving devotion. Text 59. The highest devotion is attained by slow degrees by the method of constant endeavor for self-realization with the help of scriptural evidence, theistic conduct, and perseverance in practice. Commentary by Srila Jiva Goswami. In this verse the author describes the devotional knowledge and devotional activities that are both attained by following what is described in the scriptures. The word pramana means with the Vaisnava scriptures, tat sadakarai means by performing activities pleasing to Lord Krishna, and tat abhidase means by performing them again and again one comes to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead, bodhayan atmanatmanam. It is said, a devotee who takes shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead eventually comes to see his own original form as a pure spirit soul. Then he attains devotional service that is the most exalted and pure. In the prayers of the personified Vedas, Srimad Bhagavatam 10.8720, the following prayer is offered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the individual living entity, while inhabiting the material bodies he has created for himself by his karma, actually remains uncovered by either gross or subtle matter. This is so because, as the Vedas describe, he is part and parcel of you, the possessor of all potencies. Having determined this to be the status of the living entity, learned sages become imbued with faith and worship your lotus feet, to which all Vedic sacrifices in this world are offered, and which are the source of liberation. Text 60. These preliminary practices of devotion, sadhana bhakti, are conducive to the realization of loving devotion. Loving devotion, than whom there is no superior well-being, who goes hand in hand with the attainment of the exclusive state of supreme bliss, and who can lead to myself. Commentary by Srila Jiva Goswami. This, sadhana bhakti, is the way loving devotion, prema bhakti, may be attained. There is no other way. This is described in the following words of Srimad Bhagavatam, 4.2455. My dear Lord, pure devotional service is even difficult for liberated persons to discharge, but devotional service alone can satisfy you. Who will take to other processes of self-realization if he is actually serious about the perfection of life? Text 61. Abandoning all meritorious performances, serve me with faith. The realization will correspond to the nature of one's faith. The people of the world act ceaselessly in pursuance of some ideal. By meditating on me by means of those deeds one will obtain devotion characterized by love in the shape of the supreme service. Commentary by Srila Jiva Goswami. Even if one has other, non-devotional, desires, one should still emphatically engage in the activities of devotional service, sadhana bhakti. That is affirmed in this verse. It is also affirmed by the following words of Srimad Bhagavatam, February 3, 10. A person who has broader intelligence, whether he be full of material desire, without any material desire, or desiring liberation, must by all means worship the Supreme Whole, the Personality of Godhead. Text 62. Listen, O Vidhi, I am the seed, i.e., the fundamental principle, of this world of animate and inanimate objects. I am Pradhana, the substance of matter, I am Prakriti, material cause, and I am Purasa, efficient cause. This fiery energy that belongs specially to the Brahman, that inheres in you, has also been conferred by me. It is by bearing this fiery energy that you regulate this phenomenal world of animate and inanimate objects. Commentary by Srila Jiva Goswami. In this verse the Supreme Personality of Godhead says, in this way your desire to create will be fulfilled. It will bear fruit. Here the word pradhanam means the best, bijam means the perfect and complete original form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, prakriti means the unmanifest form of material energy, and puman means he who sees. What more need be said? The Lord said, you carry the power I have given you. Therefore, O Brahma, with this power I have given, you should create all the worlds filled with moving and unmoving creatures. Epilogue Text 1. The Brahma Samhita has 100 chapters. It was spoken by Lord Brahma. It contains the essence of the Krishna Upanishads. Text 2. Although different scholars record different readings of this text, we have followed the best readings. Text 3. Srila Rapa Goswami, whose elder brother is Srila Sanatana Goswami, a saint like the eternal Supreme Personality of Godhead himself, and whose younger brother is Steve Alaba, is the shelter of this Jiva. Text 4 thus concludes the 5th chapter of Sri Brahma Samhita. May what I have done be pleasing to Lord Krishna. At every moment I offer my respectful obeisances to merciful Lord Krishna.